Had to reboot the blood clot. Let me upload the rhythms. It's a blood clot vibes.
Bittersweet Herbals, where the taste is bitter, but the results are sweet. Bittersweetherbals.com.
Bringing everything in one time. Yes, family. You see what the topic is? Can we trust the God of the Bible? That's the question. Anybody want to come in can come in too. It's an open discussion. Yes, family, we just vibing. Y'all see the name of the topic? Y'all see the topic? Can we trust the God of the Bible? That's the question. Can we trust the God of the Bible? When I went through the behavior of the God of the Bible, it makes you question the God. Question the gods. The God spell. Can we trust the God of the Bible? Don't they say in a dollar bill, in God we trust? Can we trust the Bible? Open discussion. Anybody want to come in for a minute? I ain't going to be on long. You know what I mean? I had a long ass day. Been filming and shit like that. Check out the new season coming through on the 20th of this month. The Land is Ugly, directed and produced by yours legendary Selah Shalom. I got a whole audience of people that don't even know nothing about that. You dig? Where we at with it? Yeah, y'all chime in. It's going down on the 20th. Let me share my scrizzle. Y'all go ahead and, if y'all like hood movies and stuff like that, your boy got one right here. There go your boy. Put that on a big screen for y'all to see. So this is going down January 20th. You know what I mean? Atlanta's Ugly 2.0, Season 8. You feel me? This was poppin', family. Producer, director, script writer. I do it all, family. I even designed this goddamn poster. You feel me? When you're talking about a one-man army, your boy, a one-man army. So lock this in your calendar. January 20th, season 8, Atlanta's Ugly 2.0. We taking back the city, of course. You know what I mean? So I just ain't up here doing videos on consciousness. We out here filming, doing other things too, being productive. So that's the thing. The religious beliefs got niggas thinking they can't be productive. I know a lot of Hebrew Israelites that got talent, but they let go of them talents to serve a God that don't want you to do none of these talents. Niggas stop rapping, niggas stop doing a lot of things because they God said so. While in the Owaspy, it says develop your talents, regardless of what the talent is, develop it. So I'm a film director. Created my own shit, created my own lane. You know what I mean? Big up yourself, family. Don't sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. If you can sing, goddamn it, sing. Don't let nobody tell you you can't sing. If you rap, nigga, rap. Don't let nobody tell you can't rap. Do what you do and be guided by the spirit of the creator. And don't give a fuck about another's opinion. Because when you start worrying about people's opinion, that's when you're going to slow down momentum. Because you're going to feel like, oh, he told me this, let me listen to his advice. You listen to his advice, and you go to somebody else and they say, yo, you need to do this. You need to critique that, which was the advice that he gave you. Now you critiquing his advice, and you're going to get nowhere. You're going to find yourself running in circles. So you got to do what you do, fuck what people think, and keep this shit moving. Take it from a nigga who been doing this shit, put it into practice. I see the family chiming in. I see y'all chiming in. Beat sound like it came from The Alchemist. Yeah, I'm on that type of time, son. I got tracks, yo. I got tracks like that. You know what I mean? Like, I got real hip-hop shit. I got a whole bunch of tracks. I'm going to start playing some of these tracks I got. I'm bullshitting actually with the music, man. I got a shitload of music I'm sitting on. I need to start releasing this shit. You got a question? You got a question? So when these false gods are caught, they just go under a different name or form. Well, first, when these false gods are caught, they are brought before true God, rightful ruler of heaven and earth. And there they are judged. And they are judged based off the actions of their own labor. So it's not like they're getting an unrighteous judgment. Their judgment is based upon the very actions and behavior that they expressed. Like, for example, God chastised the four false gods. He runs down what they did wrong. Once they profess their wrongdoing, then they're sent back to all those people they misled to tell them that I wasn't the Christ, I wasn't the Most High. Now I got to lift you niggas up in order for all of us to be redeemed. Feel me? So they don't go under a different name. They are sent back to their followers and labor under all those people who they misled. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. Some false gods could switch up their names. You see that all through the Owaspy. You got Baal. He is Baal in one breath. Then he moved to Rome and he became Zeus. You feel me? Zeus is Baal. You know what I'm saying? Yes, family. We just vibing out, you know what I mean? Any questions, you can throw your questions in the chat. That's the question. Can we trust God in the Bible? Give me a 1 in the chat if you could trust God in the Bible. Give me a 2 in the chat if you're not trusting the God of the Bible. What we looking like? It's a blood clot vibes. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yup, Zeus being Baal. Because when Luamon came on the scene, Baal was stationed at Rome at the time. Yeah, Baal is an old ancient god from Canaan. And then he found himself migrating into Rome. Yep, God had Rome Baal had inspiration of Rome. When you read the Owaspi in the Book of Ezra, it shows you where these gods. Damn, I see them twos coming in. I don't see no ones, but I'll be damned, yo. That's crazy. Not 1-1. So we ain't got no opposition. That's deep right there. We cannot trust. So basically, I think Odin is one of them Norse gods or something like that. One of them Norse motherfuckers and shit. Like Norse mythology, you got to go into the Norse mythology and legends of that stuff. You find out. A lot of these deities is in the weekdays too. You know what I mean? The Roman calendar. Peace to the righteous God. He at work with it. You already know, King. What you say? Tekiva Creator is undefeated every time. Every time. That's why we ask the question. Can we trust God? You know what I mean? Can we trust the God of the Bible? I read to you the diabolical acts the nigga been doing, especially that Judges chapter 20 is everything. See that? That's right. We test the Spirit of God. The God of the Bible. Can we trust him? All right, let's start with the laws. Let's start with the laws. Yeah, we're going to start with the laws, the commandments. That's where it all starts. That's where it all starts, with the commandments. For me to put my trust in a God, his word has to be his bond. Just like your brother. If you and your brethren is moving in the streets or moving around and y'all doing business together, your word and his word got to be bond. Can't be going against your word, yo. Use the laws right here. Exodus chapter 20, verse 1, it states, God spoke all these things, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. There shall be no other gods before me. Okay. He said, there shall be no other gods before me. Okay, reloaded. Let's do this. Let's do blood clot this. Let's go to John 14:6 real quick. You know how we do. Let's go to John 14:6. Touched on this the other day. John 14:6 states, Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So in order to get to the Father, you have to go through Jesus. But the law states, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Is not Jesus considered Lord and God to some people? So he is before God. He is standing as an intermediate, a medium before God. While in the law, this is the law that was given to Moses. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Right? Now let's hit the concordance for a quick second. Now we know what God 430. It says God 430. 430. But now we have the word gods. Where is that? Right here. And it still renders under 430. Elohim, plural. And that's the sad thing about the etymology of this scripture, because it's the same word. God spoke. God is going to click and say Elohim, and it's going to say plural. So technically speaking, this is a council. This is a council speaking, but it's appeared to look like one person is speaking. If this was in the original, if we was reading this in Hebrew only, this will appear to be a council of gods and not just one God. Let's get the council. Show you how this thing works. Show you how this thing works. See, they got a council. See right here. Right here. In the book of Jehovah, chapter 7, verse 11. God shall have a council. Now that right there alone just puts it in a nutshell. And God here is singular. This is the Oahspe. This is not the Hebrew. God shall have a council. So the council of God makes up the body of the Elohims. That's the council. So it's letting you know that, and God shall have a council enthroned within the heavenly city. So it's letting you know that God has a council within the heavenly city. But the Bible doesn't explain none of this, so it leaves us confounded. Because if we're going to only read this in English, we're going to say that thou shalt have no other gods before me. And when we come back to Jesus, he's playing a person that is standing before God. You got to get to the Son before you get to the Father. But in the law, that's not how it goes. You shall have no other Elohims before me. Let's keep it moving. It's Kim, my nigga Kim. Keep it moving. And look. So we got one strike already with Jesus claiming to be the Son, that you have to come through the Son before you get to the Father, while the law says, thou shalt have no other gods before me. And let's get a precept to that, actually. Let's get a precept. Let's go to Isaiah 44 and 11. Let's do that there. Isaiah 44 and 11. Wait a second. Isaiah 44. Isaiah 43, it might be. Far to tree. Isaiah 43 and 11. What'd that say? You read this yesterday or the other day. I, even I, am the Lord, and besides me there is no Savior. So that is consistent with the law, where it states, thou shalt have no other gods before me, and the precept, I, even I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Savior. But when we get to the New Testament, no man cometh unto the Father but by me. Okay? Some Israelites don't believe in Yahshua. They're called Old Testament Israelites, non-Messianic. And these are the reasons why. Because they're saying the law says this. And they try to say that Yahshua changed the law or whatever. So now, that's the next verse. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. So they broke that law. And to prove that they broke that law, all we got to do is this. And there is the proof that they broke the law, because they deified and made an image of their God. L. See that? They go L. The Canaanite deity. And then if this is supposed to be the creator is not in the image of a man, but in the Bible, God is a man. He's a graven image. Ye shall worship no graven images. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images. And they made graven image. Not only did they make graven images, but they made it of their God, who are in heaven, who resides in heaven, right? This they God who resides in heaven. This is L. He resides in heaven, but the law states, thou shalt not make any graven images or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above. Where does God reside? In heaven above. And they made images of the God in heaven above. Proving that their God has an image. They're not worshiping the creator, but the deity. See that? The deity. Y'all gonna come to the understanding that you worshiping the man, and these men is one-time human beings. It ain't no spooky shit. If they ain't from this terrestrial planet, whatever inhabitable planet that they came from, it's the same shit like us, terrestrial beings. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for I am the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me. Who can hate the creator? God is talking like he's talking like a regular person, a man. A man talks like that. Creator don't talk like that. Even if you creator is hated on, the creator still ain't talking like that. Thou shalt not bow down to them, nor serve them. Well, it's too late, because many Israelites bow down. They may not physically bow down, but they spiritually bow down to these false gods. The spiritual bowing downing is the acceptance of the belief of these false gods. You submitted yourself. To submit, to bow down, to bow out. So you spiritually submit by bowing down and bowing out to these false gods, thinking that they're the most high, in the image of man. Thou shalt not take the name the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guilty that take his name in vain. Now look at that. These sound like threats. Just imagine you sitting around and the boss is telling you, yo, don't take my name in vain. If one of you niggas take my name in vain, I'm going to kill you. Just imagine the boss talking like that. You're like, damn, all right, this nigga, all right. But this your creator. This your God talking. Can we trust this God? This is the Lord talking. If you was in the room and the Lord said that shit, would you still be trustworthy of the Lord? Like, damn, this nigga said, yo, don't take my name for granted. Like, nigga, you just created whole sun, moon, stars, and planet. What you so concerned about us mortals, joking about your name? Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. There's a lot of conflict going on with the Sabbath, how they follow the Sabbath, how to follow the Sabbath. To me, it's goddamn simple. It's not that complicated. You know what I mean? I've been following this shit longer than a lot of people. And I'm telling them from my experiences that it's a consistent way of following it. You just got to get in tune with it. And it's not falling out of order. It's not falling out of sequence. What's falling out of order and falling out of sequence is when you apply it to the Roman calendar. And the Roman calendar, shit start fucking up. But you want to put it on the moon like the moon, oh, it's off. No, nigga. How the hell can the creator be off? Your Roman calendar is off because you want to continue to uphold Saturday because that's easy work. You lazy niggas don't want to go out there and chart that moon cycle and really understand how it works. But you want to be the chosen people of God and surrender to a Saturday Sabbath instead of learning that motherfucking moon cycles. Every 7 of the moon, 4-quarter moon Sabbaths. You don't want to learn that. Thou shalt labor, 6 days shall no labor, and do all thy work. But on the 7th day is a Shabbat of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work. Thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gate. So here it states that you ain't supposed to be doing no work. What is work? It says, in it thou shalt not do any work. When them Israelites be preaching on the corner, nigga, that's work. That's work. Because you out there spreading the word. That's a job, nigga. That's work. You out there every Saturday on the street corners preaching the word of God. Nigga, that's a job. But some of y'all got buckets to collect money on the Sabbath, nigga. Huh? I done seen some of them videos, all them camps, from Tazariak, from IUSUPK to HOI, Zabak and them camps. They got that bucket. You can throw that money in there on the Sabbath now. That's work. And then you gaining the salary on that Sabbath when it's supposed to be a day of rest. You're supposed to be working 6 days. You niggas is better off on them street corners 6 days out the week doing that shit and falling the fuck back on the Sabbath, nigga. We shouldn't see you niggas on the Sabbath. You niggas is out there on the Sabbath preaching on the corner like it's a 9 to 5. But the scriptures say, in it, thou shalt not do any work. For in the 6th day, the Lord made heaven and earth. They go to bullshit. They go Ezra. Keep in mind, this is Ezra's writing. These are the words of Ezra. For in 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth. That's a lie. Ezra gave you that. Ezra gave you that lie. Ooh, I got it right here. Oh no, this the that's the nitty gritty. In 2nd Ezra chapter 14, it let us know a voice came to Ezra, and it came in the same manner that it came to Moses. And it came to pass upon the 3rd day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of the bush over against me and said, Ezra, Ezra. So the voice speaking out of the bush, just like it did with Moses. That's the same thing what happened to Moses. It was a voice speaking out the burning bush, and here you have a voice speaking to Ezra out the bush. And look what the voice say. And I said, here I am. Here am I, Lord, and stood up on my feet. Then said he unto me, in the bush I did reveal myself unto Moses, and talk with him when my people served in Egypt. See, this nigga lying. This nigga lying, talking about he revealed himself to Moses. He a liar. He lying, family. Here's the catcher, though. In verse 20, behold, Lord, Hold up. Okay, yeah. I will go as thou commanded me, and reprove the people which are present. But they shall be born afterward. Who shall admonish them? Thus the world is set in darkness, and they that dwell therein are without light. Verse 21. For thy law is burnt, therefore no man know nothing. No man knoweth the things that are done of thee, or of the works that shall begin. So, there's no Torah during the time of Ezra. And here's the proof. That's the proof that there's no Torah. It says, for the law is burnt. Therefore, no man knoweth the things that are done. Of thee, of who? Of God. They don't know about the 7-day creation story at this time. They don't know none of that shit. The law is burnt away with. So the coming generations, if it's not orally spoken, that shit then went out into existence. But the whole purpose of Ezra, he's going to try to rewrite the shit. And here's the key. But if I have found grace before thee, send the Holy Ghost into me, and I shall write that all that have been done in the world since the beginning, which were written in the law. I shall write all that had been done in the world since the beginning. So this is what I'm telling you. What you have in your Bible about Ezra, when we read Exodus right here. So when we come back to Exodus 20:11, and it says, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth. That's backed up. Hold on. Oh, that's backed up right here. I will write all that have been done in the world since the beginning. So the 7-day creation story is a recompiling of Luamong inspired through Ezra. Let me see if I can find Luamong Ezra and the Owaspi real quick. Find Ezra. Show Luamong inspired these boys. That's why can we trust the God of the Bible? Who is the goddamn God of the Bible? There's so much shit going on. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see if I can find Ezra real quick. That's letting you know right there. They ain't have no law. 4th century BC, 5th century BC, Israel ain't have no law. Niggas running around blindsided. They don't know what they worshiping, who they worshiping, when and where they going. They asked out. You know what I mean? These are things we was bringing out to prove that they don't have no manuscripts from the time of Moses, no Torah. You can forget about it. We get Ezra for y'all real quick. We're going to show. These false gods is playing on a high level. You know what I mean? On the chessboard, they playing the king and queen. You niggas want to be the pawns. You want to be the little niggas running around getting knocked off instead of looking at what the king and queen doing, how they putting this whole shit together. You know what I mean? We up here battling with the gods. Y'all niggas is wrapped them up. Y'all still rapping in the divide on the tribal level. Y'all still dealing on the tribal level. Let's go to the God's Book of Ezra, chapter 41, 31, 41, 31. Let me get that. God's Book of Ezra. God's Book of Ezra 31. Hold on. I said 41. Yeah, yo. Things are run deep around these parts. $41. Let's get it. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this, na blood clot. This is Luamong. This is the Owaspi. The Dakota. This is the book of Escrow 41:28. So Luamong falsely assumed to be God, the Lord of heaven and earth. So Luamong, this God that is new to the most of us from reading the Owaspi, but plays a prominent role in history, he falsely assumes to be Elohim, El, and Yahuwah, Lord, Baal of heaven and earth, Lord of heaven and earth. And this is what he tells his homie. He said, yo, Jabril thought, go tell mortals I am the same God who wrought wonders for the Israelites. And behold, the Israelites will fight for me. The Israelites don't have no clue who Luamong is, but they're going to soon have a clue who he is. So look what happens. Thought did this, and furthermore, Luamong inspired a mortal, Ezra. See that? Luamong inspired Ezra. Now, when we go back to Ezra, what did it say right here? And it came to pass upon the third day, and I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of the bush over against me and said, Ezra, Ezra, who you think is that speaking out the bush? Guess who that's speaking out the bush? That is Luamong. Luamong inspired a mortal, Ezra. The inspiration is proven in 2 Ezra 14:1. And it came to pass on the third day, I sat under an oak, and behold, there came a voice out of the bush over against me and said, Ezra, Ezra. So now he's speaking out of the burning bush. I told you, Moses spoke out the burning bush. I mean, not Moses, God. I mean, the angel spoke out the burning bush to Moses. So Ezra hears the same thing, says, I'm he's like, yo, it's good. He said, and I said, here I am, Lord, and stood up on his feet. And look what he states next. Then said he unto me in the bush, I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses, and talk with him when my people served in it. So he's lying. This spirit that came to Ezra is lying by telling Ezra that he came to Moses. But when we come back to the Owaspi, what was his intentions here? What did he say? So Luamong falsely assumed. Falsely assumed. That's what we're dealing with. So when we come back to Ezra, he's falsely assuming to be the burning bush that spoke to Moses. In the bush I did manifestly reveal myself unto Moses. But his intentions is what? Falsely assuming to be the God of Israel. See that? So Luamong falsely assumed to be the God, the Lord of heaven and earth. He said to Jabril, or Thoth, go tell mortals I am the same God who wrought wonders for the Israelites. Who's Ezra supposed to be? An Israelite. That's what he's coming to Ezra, because Ezra is responsible for compiling the Tanakh. So the inspiration of the Tanakh is coming from Luamong. That's why it states here, Luamong inspired a mortal, Ezra. What he inspired him to do, let's get it, to gather all the records he could to be proof of his labor for the Israelites. So he's inspiring Ezra to compile a document. And look what it states here. To accomplish this, Thoth, alias Gabriel, Jabril, the same nigga who came to Muhammad, that's who that is, employed 700,000 angels to be with Ezra, and numerous scribes. See that? So he's assigned 700,000 angels. Huh? And then it states what? To be with Ezra and the numerous scribes whom Ezra employed. Now here, in this version, in Ezra, it states the scribes right here. But look, thou prepare thee many box trees, and take with thee Saria, Debria, Selima, Ecanus, and Azael. These 5 which are ready to write swiftly. So in the Ezra account, it's 5 that's documenting what's going on. While in the Owaspi, it says to be with Ezra, the numerous scribes who Ezra employed. So now, what is Ezra doing? And by their inspiration, whose inspiration? The 700,000 angels. By their inspiration under Luamung. By their inspiration, the book of the Ezra Bible were written and compiled. See that? The books, let me get that right here. The books of the Ezra Bible. Don't Bible mean books, scrolls? Huh? The books of the Ezra Bible were written and compiled. When we come here, these are the swift messengers, right? And look, this God that came to Moses, right, never declared himself to be the Holy Ghost. That's where things change. The God of the Bible, the God of Ezra is claiming to be the Holy Ghost, sending the Holy Ghost. And send the Holy Ghost into me, and I shall write that which has been in the world since the beginning, which were written in thy law. And then it states here, and when thou is done, some things shall thou publish, and some things shall thou shew secret to the wise. Tomorrow this hour shall thou begin to write. See that? And look at this. According to the commandments of Luamung. What did it state here? And when thou hast done, some things shall thou publish, some things shall thou shew secretly to the wise. Tomorrow this hour thou shalt begin the writing. That's the commandment. You're going to begin the writing on the morrow. So I took the 5 men as commanded me, and I went into the field and remained there. And the next day, behold, the voice called me, saying, Ezra, open thy mouth and drink. So now, the angels is telling Ezra to drink some shit. But all this is coming under the command of who? Luamung. According to the commandments of Luamung. And look what it states. And there were thus compiled 72 books, and they were put on file in the king's library in Jerusalem, which was how the ancient preserve important records of events. And these books were called by Ezra the Holy Library, which we know as the Tanakh, of which number 54 remain to this day. So in this account in the Owaspi, it says 72 books were compiled, but in the Ezra account, it was more like over 200 and some change. So it talks about him taking a drink. And this is where the John Newbro effect kicks in right here. It says, the highest gave understanding unto the 5 men, and they wrote the wonderful vision of the night that were told, which they knew not. So they didn't know, or they didn't have an understanding of what was being written, because it's being written fresh through automatic writing. See, according to the Ezra account, he automatically wrote these things. It says they wrote the wonderful vision of the night. That were told, which they knew not. And they sat 40 days, and they wrote in the day and in the night. They ate, at night they ate bread. As for me, I spoke in the day, and I held not my tongue by night. So they going in. And in 40 days, they wrote 204 books. See that? They wrote 204 in this account, and the Owaski account is 72. And it came to pass when the 40 days were filled that the highest spoke, saying, the first that thou hast written, publish openly, that the worthy and unworthy may read. Now it's interesting. It's interesting, nonetheless. We're going to get to that. So it says, the first that thou hast written, publish openly, that the worthy and unworthy may read it. But keep 70 last, that thou may deliver them only to such as be wise among the people. Now this is interesting. It says, but keep the 70. But keep the 70. That's interesting because in the Owaski, it says 72 right here. Right there. It says, and there were thus completed 72 books, and they were put on file in the king's library in Jerusalem. And then it states here, but keep the 70 last, that thou mayst deliver them only to such as be wise among the people. So leaving 134 books to the worthy and unworthy, but the 70 was left into the wise. And then the Owaski got the 72. So I guess in the Owaski's account, the 72 would be considered the one that was accredited to the wise. Because of course, it states it was filed in the king's library in Jerusalem. So the king would be considered the wise. That's, you know what I mean? That's the best sense that it makes right there. And then, of course, we come to what I was reading just now. Luamung, who's responsible for inspiring Ezra. That's what we just read right there. So right here, 32. Get it right here. Right here, 32. But of all these, not one book was inspired by Jehovah. See that? See that? It says not one book was inspired by Jehovah or his son, God of heaven and earth. Not one book was inspired. So what you have right here, this shit right here, is sad but true. I'd rather have the truth than to hold on to a lie. This is the Tanakh. This is your Tanakh. This is the work of Ezra right here. This is what we're talking about, the Tanakh. See that? Tanakh, holy scriptures. This is what we're dealing with. What did it say right here? Not one book was inspired by Yahuwah or by his son, Ben El of Shemaim Haaretz. A little bit of Hebrew. But it stated, not one book was inspired by Jehovah or his son, God of heaven and earth. Not one. So if this shit wasn't inspired by Creator, who was it inspired by? Who was Luamung under the influence of? Only in the Owaski it reveals it. Goddamn Luamung. So look what it states nonetheless. Nevertheless, there are many things within them that were of Jehovah and his angels, even though they were put on record by men and interpreted by men, and these men being Ezra. Luamung in these things did not sin against Jehovah, for he did not cause his own name, Luamung, to be made worshipful. And this is why you don't know Luamung in history, because he did not make his name worshipful. He did not make his name worshipful. But what did he make his name? How do we recognize Luamung in history if he's supposed to be a character that exists as an angel and we never knew his name? The way we know Luamung in history is by this term right here. Right here. Luamung right here. God's Book of Esther, chapter 47. Luamung falsely announced himself the Christ. This is where we know Luamung. We don't know his personal name, but he falsely announced himself the Christ. We know that term in history. The term Christ is coined by Luamung, the same nigga who inspired Ezra. The Lord said, behold, it came to pass as had been foretold by God, Jehovah's Son, true God. The Trinity, the true ones, will all become false gods because they have denied the Almighty. God said, there is but one who is all knowledge. Whatsoever angel or God announcing himself to be all knowledge is false in the presence of Jehovah. So Luamung over here sneakily inspiring Ezra to madness, to believe the bullshit, is going to end up being false in the presence of Creator. And here's the catcher. Nevertheless, Luamung had it proclaimed in heaven and earth that he was the what? The Christ. There you have it. There you have it, which is the Hamitic expression for all knowledge. This is when Luamung became false. Look what it states next. The Lord said, now therefore Luamung was from this time forth a false god in heaven and earth. Why he became a false god? Because he proclaimed the name Christ as the worshipful name. See that? This is before the image of Christ. This is before they created a deity. This shit was coined among the angels before it was coined among mortals. And Luamung commanded Thought, his angel warrior, command of his earthly dominion, to raise up a tribe of warriors amongst mortals. And by the inspiration of said Thought, these warriors were induced to call themselves Christians. Look at that, yo. These niggas is calling themselves Christians. Here's the catcher. Here's the catcher as a precept. The doctrine of these warriors called Christians was that knowledge which implies general education was the best preventative against crime and misery. Makes sense? Neither understood any man in those days that the word Christ had any reference to a man or a person. See that? This is before they gave you a deified deity named Jesus or Serapis. This is before the image. The term was coined. And from that time of Moses to Ezra, there were intervals of 400 years, which the Jews had no written record. Okay, you see that? It says from Moses to Ezra was intervals of 400 years by the time Ezra came around, it stated what? In which the Jews had no written record. What did we just read in Ezra? Up here. So it says, in which the Jews had no written record. You know why they had no written record? This is why they had no written record right here. This is why they had no written record right here. For thy law is burnt. See that? This is why they had no written record. Let me copy that. This is why they had no written record of this dude. Where we at with it? Scroll down. Yeah, yo. Look at this. See that? Right there. You drop it right up in there. Bang. Up that precept right up in there. So right there. Again. Now, from the time of Moses to Ezra were interval of 400 years, in which the Jews had no written record. The reason I had no written record, because it says, for thy law is burnt, in which the Jews had no written record by the time of Ezra, is because thy law is burnt. Therefore no man knoweth the things that were done of thee, or the works that shall begin, but of thee for the most part, right there. I want to add that little precept. And then when we come back up here, look what it states here in the book of Ezra. Keep in mind, the Holy Ghost is what came to him. Book of Ezra 18:31. And the people all worship an imaginary figure of 3 parts, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. And this will become their idol. And he will be accredited with love, anger, jealousy, favoritism, war, and destruction. See that? Who came to Ezra? The Holy Ghost. Remember? Who was the Holy Ghost? Goddamn Lou among them boys. They established the Holy Confederacy. Right here, look. God's Book of Ezra 41:10. Now finally they resolved to organize each of these 3 places within a distinct head, and to unite the 3 heads as one confederacy, and the whole to be dedicated to the service of Jehovah. Thus was founded the Confederacy of the Holy Ghost. See that? And by acclamation, 3 angels were raised to the 3 capitals, namely Kabalektes of Horaktu, Inaxa of Etashan, and Luamong of Hepsendai. And each and every one of the 3 took the title Son of the Holy Ghost. Right there. Right there. And each and every one of the 3 took the title Son of the Holy Ghost. Coming back to the precept right here. When we're coming back to Ezra, what Ezra say? Send the Holy Ghost into me. Who Lou among rocking with? Goddamn Holy Ghost. These niggas made this shit up, yo. Creator ain't tell you niggas nothing about no Holy Ghost. This shit was made up by these niggas. So the question is asked, can we trust these gods? Because you niggas is thinking that these is the creator gods who created the sun, moon, and stars, and these are angels assuming to be the creator. That's what these are. Like it stated here, angels assuming to be the creator. What a state. So Luamong falsely assumed to be God. He ain't even assumed to be creator. He assumed to be true God true God of heaven and earth, the rightful ruler. He claiming to be the rightful ruler. It's like a nigga claiming to be Biden. So Luamong falsely assumed to be Biden, the president of the United States. You know what I mean? That's what's that's how silly that shit sound. So the question needs to be asked, can we trust these gods? Because it's the gods that got niggas acting and doing what we doing. It's a blood clot vibe. Yes, family, we just vibing out. You know how we do. It's a vibes. We got Louis Lucifer L in the building. Hold up, let me unmute you. There you go. Peace, God.
What's good with you, bro? Peace and light. How you been?
Hey, man, all is well. How you, King?
Good, bro. Just chilling.
How life treating you? Still in Philly or you back or what?
I'm Philly. I came back 2018. Word. So I've been here since.
So how you been managing? Yo, Philly going crazy with the motherfucking murder, my nigga. How you managing with that shit?
Minding my own business. Like,
Best answer. That's the best answer you could say. What's good though? What's up with the knowledge?
no, I didn't see your whole stream, but I seen what you was talking about. I seen you was reading the Book of Ezra and how Lil Mang and Gabriel and them influenced Ezra. But
Right,
I always
right,
thought that I always thought this was interesting because the Owaski doesn't ever really explicitly say
right.
why the Torah got so many contradictions in it.
You was one of the first ones to really bring out that the law was burnt, because you used to press that issue heavy back a couple years back on the on Facebook and stuff like that. So the shit that came full circle around again, and I know this is your topic. So go ahead and touch on some of the law was burnt away with and the whole nine. Go ahead and elaborate on some of that.
Well, yeah, well, the Babylonians, destroyed Jerusalem, and when they destroyed, and pillaged Jerusalem or what have you, the laws were burnt. They were lost, as Ezra tells you in Second Ezra. Now, some people are going to argue that Ezra didn't write that, and he probably didn't. But at the end of the day, it's tradition. You know what I'm saying? And people know that Ezra was commanded by the Persians to write a text. The whole Old Testament in reality is a Persian plot, and by the Owaski that King Cyrus was Lul Mang's man. And the Owaski called King Cyrus a tyrant. Now, history don't really call King Cyrus a tyrant. You know what I'm saying? But the Owaski does. Mm-hmm. So that's Lul Mang's first influence as a Zoroastrian king. Well, not really Zoroastrian, a Mithraic king.
Right.
Because they weren't even Zoroastrians, they were Mithraic. Because you had the Mithraic cults, and you had Zoroastrian, have you. But the mystery cult started with Mithra in them. So, yeah, man. They just kind of, they wanted that with the whole Persians and writing the Bible, that was like the first attempt of like a new world order, like one world religion type of thing. That's what the Persians were about. Finding the religions and appropriating the religions or what have you. So that's just pretty much what they were doing with the Israelites, or the Jews that were in Jerusalem. And the Jews at that time, when they were able to go back into the land, all of them didn't go back into the land to help rebuild the temple. A lot of them stayed. And the reason that is because a lot of people don't know this, is when the Jews were in Babylon, they were running the banking system over there.
Right.
So they were doing well. They didn't want to come back. They were living lavish lives in Babylon. So all that shit, all that mystery cult shit or whatever with them started in Babylon.
Facts. That's
by the Persians pushing it or what have you. So Ezra was basically a Persian courtier. He was paid, bought out by the Persians. You dig what I'm saying? So it starts like that. And he was commanded to go out and compile a text. So obviously, since he tells you, whoever's telling you the laws were burnt, obviously that was a tradition that persisted. Ezra had to go out here and kind of scramble, find what he can. So he had to go to different, Jewish, what's what I'm looking for, different guilds or what have you, belief, like different priesthoods or what have you. And that's where you the Yahwehs and the Deuteronomists and the priestly scriptures and and all that other shit. That's because he goes out there and he finds all these competing traditions and he tries to unify them on top of plagiarizing. And why not? Because at that time the Persian had control of the libraries, had control of Egypt, and the whole Middle East. So he would have been able to freely go into these libraries and take whatever the knowledge to compile this text. But what I find interesting is the fact that even though all these things were done, the Old Testament still got like over 600 contradictions. And the Owaski doesn't really explain why all those contradictions are in there. So it leaves you up to speculation, but that, it was Gabriel that was doing all the footwork for Lul Mang.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? But at some point, and it had to have been, Gabriel had the request for Jerusalem before he inspired Ezra to write the Tanakh. So I think that during the time that he was requested by Lul Mang to inspire Ezra to compile the Tanakh, Gabriel was already going back and forth with this cat about the promises that were never delivered. So that's just me speculating. This is not the Owaski. Don't say that.
It's all good. We just build it. You know how we go.
But I just think that when Gabriel was inspiring Ezra and his crew to write the Tanakh, he already had in the back of his mind that, this cat didn't deliver on his promises. So I feel like he purposely left the contradictions in the text basically as like a safe fire, that if Lul Mang ever goes out of control or he don't deliver up, since he created the text and he built them up, he left the contradictions in there to trip him up so they can go in later and expose his ass. which leads the Christians to go and then burn the information that's in the libraries in the Alexandria, Egypt, what have you.
Exactly. And
To
then
get
it
rid
even
of all
says
that
that,
shit.
right. And it also said that the scribes of Ezra, the works were so voluminous that they couldn't even put a head to tail to what they was dealing with. So with that alone, they would have been in contradiction because they didn't even know what they really compiling. Like even with the 7-day creation story, it's like, how the hell y'all didn't get that right? That's starting out the book and y'all already fucking up. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So all right, so by the time Yahshua comes on the scene, or by the time the 1st century, now we have all these flourishing sects, I guess, that grew out of this Tanakh, because now you're hearing about these Pharisees, what's the other ones? The Sadducees.
The
We know
Sadducees and
about
the
the
Pharisees.
Essenes,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some of these other groups that sprang out. Well, I don't know if they sprang out because of the Tanakh after Ezra, or these groups was already in existence coming out of captivity. I'm not sure, because you don't hear too much about Pharisees in the pre-captivity, but you hear about them, post-captivity during the time of Yahshua, because like Moses' time, I ain't never heard about no Pharisees and Sadducees and nothing like that. But then when Yahshua comes, you find these terminologies and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to see if
Babylon.
Babylon. That
They
makes
appeared
sense.
in Babylon. That's where it all started. That's where Rabbinic Judaism was created, in Babylon. That's when the religion took on a change. You know what I'm saying? That's when it started to become monotheistic, because prior to the captivity in Babylon, the ancient Israelites, you could read the text that they weren't monotheistic, meaning they only believed in one God. They were more henotheistic in the sense that they acknowledged the existence of other entities, other deities, what have you, but they only venerated one supreme, which would have been Jehovah, or Yehovah, what have you. You know what I'm saying? Monotheism doesn't really come into play until Isaiah chapter 44. And you got to remember when Isaiah is talking about basically saying that.
I can pull it up. Chapter 44. I was just in chapter 43. Yeah, I gotta still pull up right here.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact verse, but somewhere in there where Isaiah basically says, where the Lord says, "There is no other besides me."
Yo, it's crazy, bro. I actually did have. That's what I got up. I mean, I got that on the screen right now. That's what I was bringing out earlier. That's crazy. You actually bring that verse up right here.
But that was the first time, right there. It's the first time monotheism is announced. Yep.
This is what you're referring to right here.
Mm-hmm.
Even I am the Lord, and besides me there is no Savior. And then right here, he validates it right here. This is the killer right here in the next verse. It states, I have declared, and I have saved, and I have shewed thee, there was no stranger God among you. Therefore, no, this ain't it right here. Hold up, where that? Oh, this one right here. No, that ain't it either. It's the one where he talking to. Wait a second. Where that verse at where he said, it was just him by himself. Well, they got a couple right here. Ye are my witnesses, said the Lord, and my servant who I have chosen, that ye may know and believe me and understand that I am he. Before me there is no God formed, neither shall there be after me. That wasn't the verse I was looking for, but you can see he's declaring, like you say, a singular purpose. And the crazy thing about that, well, that's just saying the Lord on this one. What day says to God. But nonetheless.
Because I think it's Isaiah 44 that he brings up Cyrus. He says that Cyrus is the shepherd or what have you. 44? Which is a contradiction. Yeah, I think it's 44. It's around that area. And also interesting, when you look at critical biblical scholarship, those, I think from Isaiah 44, maybe 43, there's like because you have Proto-Isaiah, Deuteronomist Isaiah, or what have you. I forget which ones they are. But that's supposedly not even written by Isaiah.
Yeah, I heard it was like 3 different authors writing this joint.
Yeah. Oh, that's not written by Isaiah. Basically, from like chapter 1 to like 30 some, it's supposedly.
Yeah, I heard the same. Yeah, because
the original saying about that.
Yeah, my homie had a bill like that. He went to damn Bible school. And he was telling me about how the book of Isaiah is like 3 different writers.
Chapter 43 and 44 and shit. That's Ezra in them. That's, you could tell that's during Babylon, because they're talking about King Cyrus. Yeah.
So here you go right here. that saith of Cyrus, he is my shepherd, and shall perform all my pleasure, even saying to Jerusalem, thou shalt build, and to the temple thy foundation shall be laid. Woo! The
Go further
inspiration.
down. Go further down real
I
quick.
think that's the last. I think that's the last verse in chapter 44.
Ain't there a verse that says that he will hold Cyrus by the hand?
Let me go back up and look. Oh, you know what? This was the verse I was looking for. Wait a second. Let me just read this. Thus saith the Lord, thy Redeemer, and he that formed thee from the womb. I am the Lord that maketh all things, that stretch forth the heavens alone, that spread abroad the earth by myself.
Exactly.
So, like what you're saying is declaring this is now. This is right. If this is true, this is right and exact, because we're talking about Yahuwah, which in the Hebrew means one who exists. It's not talking about a deity, nor an angel, nor an idol when we look at the etymology of the word. So that's right and exact. But they fuck up when they add God to the shit, Lord God, and that's where they fuck up at. But
because he couldn't have been by himself, because in the beginning the Elohim, the gods created. You know what I'm saying? So it couldn't have been by himself. So that shows you right there that whoever wrote that, they weren't monotheistic, because they said the Elohim. Every time you add an E in Hebrew, that's plural, because if you're going to use God singular, you're going to say El or Eloah. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Elohim.
I'm thinking, like, how can they make that mistake as grammar, Hebrew grammar men or whatever?
More than likely, why Ezra and them even wrote that, probably, well, first and foremost, you already know through Owaspis that they got that from the Egyptian text, Genesis.
Right.
And the Owaspis tells you that the Egyptians wrote Exodus. Obviously, he didn't copy word for word the Genesis account.
I think, when they say that, I'm thinking too, because, Osiris had dominion over Egypt and Mesopotamia for the most part. So the Amuna Elish, I'm looking at as the work of Osiris, because when they was given the word from Enuhasas to go down to their mortal ward, and it said, Thut was in Arabenia, of course, back then the landmass would have been a little bit, broader. But Sudga and Tian, their works were in China and in India. So Osiris would have had more dominion over, of course, Africa, but as far as Persia, I'm saying.
Through Baal and Astaroth, yeah. Because they were close to him.
Right, because Baal and Astaroth came up under Osiris, and then they created their geographical regions in Persia and Canaan, and then Osiris kept Egypt for himself. But prior to them, he had the whole shit laid out during the time that the stories would have been compiled. So I look at the Amuna Elish like an extended work, like he did the Amuna Elish and the Kemetic creation story, according to the languages, to the customs of the people or whatever. But I put Cyrus and then I pulled up some verses. So I don't know if one of these, this is the one you was talking about, I think, right here in what's this? 2 Chronicles 36:22.
Let's see now. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, that the word of the Lord spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished. The Lord stirred up the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, that he made a proclamation through all his kingdom and put it also in writing, saying, thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms, blah, 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 going down on the first year. So basically, either way, I think there might be a verse.
Look at that first sentence right here. That's the killer right there.
Thus saith Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the earth had the Lord God of heaven given me. Okay, see, the Lord God haven't given. Now we know that's Luamon, according to the Owaspis. But see, this is God and the Old Testament saying this. You know what I mean? Which is interesting, because when King Cyrus goes back and talks about how he took down on Babylon, he don't say Yahweh. He don't say the Lord. He says Marduk. He said Marduk. Marduk held him by the hand or whatever, gave him the power and delivered Babylon unto him. You don't ever say Yahweh. No, I don't say it in the text. When you read the Cyrus cylinder.
And you know what? Wow, that's interesting, because when you look up the 7-day creation myth, it is Marduk or Murdoch who is responsible for creating the gods. Let me pull it up right quick. Oh, you know what? I'm sure I'm putting Mona Lisa.
tablet on me.
Let's see. Let me pull up the sacred text real quick. I'm on a leash. And then let me get on the the 6th tablet. Hold up then. I'm on a leash, the 7 tablets of creation. Hold up. There we go. So this is the Amuna Elish, the 7 tablets of the history of creation. And when we click the 6th day, which will be the creation of man, we see that Murdoch is the God that create man, asking permission from Ea or whatever. But Murdoch heard the word of the gods, his heart prompted him, and he devised a cunning plan. And he opened his mouth unto Ea and spoke. And then he told about how he gonna fashion man right here, whatever. He said, what? That which he had conceived in his heart, he imparted unto him. He says, my blood will I take, and my bone will I fashion. I will make man that man. I will create man who shall inhabit the earth. Now, this is on the Amuna Elish, but the one who's doing it, coming back to what you were saying, is Murdoch. So Cyrus is rendering up reverence to this Babylonian god Murdoch. That's interesting. Let's see if
And even then, when he was doing it, it was bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Because he was a Mithraic king. You know what I'm saying? His allegiance was to Mithras. So
right. Ooh.
He don't give credit to Yahweh like the Old Testament gives him credit. And then Yahweh says that, I led him by the hand and he was my shepherd or whatever. But then Cyrus is telling you that he's Marduk's shepherd. And Marduk led him by the hand or what have you. So it's like...
So that's interesting. So that shows you that the scribes changed it, modified it from the Babylonian to the Hebrew, Yahweh and Elohim. But it's interesting because, you know, this is supposed to be Murdoch right here. Marduk, however you pronounce it.
That's Luamon and Gar, bro.
That's Luamon right there, son.
That's Luamon and Gar. That's not Luamon, that's Baal. Or Baal co-opted that later because, you know, they all take different names. Like Baal was Baal, Molech, Hayden, or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Just like Ashtaroth with Ishtar, Inanna.
Exactly.
You know.
Now, would you consider Ashtaroth Set from the Egyptian pantheon?
Set. I didn't really look too deep into that, but I definitely know that she's Isis.
Right. So I'm like, because you know what I'm saying, the only deities in Egypt, because you know, of course, according to the ancient Egyptian, you know, all them niggas supposed to be mythological creatures, but as we see that Osiris was supposed to be an actual god, an actual deity, a deified savior. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times they're trying to say aspect is vegetation, you know, he renovates life or whatever. He's an aspect of this and that. But when we look at that Judgment Hall of Ma'at, that nigga sitting on the throne like he calling shots. That don't look like no aspect of nature.
Of course it's not.
You see what I'm saying? Exactly.
And then after they got rid of Osiris, that's when you had the rise of Amun-Ra, which was Baal.
Right.
And then that's when the pyramid building stopped. That's when they started burying the pharaohs or what have you in the Valley of the Kings.
Right.
You know, right. And they pretty much stopped building pyramids as like temples and tombs. You know, archaeology has them as tombs. The Owaspi has it out that they're more like temples or what have you.
Right.
But that ended with, for the most part, it ended with Amos the First, who himself was a person that followed Amun-Ra. You get what I'm saying? From the south. So
ain't Amun-Ra supposed to be Baal? Because you know Baal took over. Wasn't it Baal who gave inspiration?
To Nugan.
Yeah. Wasn't it Baal?
Yeah, it was Baal. So he's Amun-Ra. He was the reason why, you know, after Cyrus was thrown into hell, whatever, he started to change things up. That's why they started to bury in the Valley of the Kings or what have you. And then the pharaohs started going back to God Kings because you could see in the Middle Kingdom statues and like the New Kingdom, they're very different. Like the Middle Kingdom art and statues, the pharaohs or what have you, and the people of nobility are depicted more accurately. You know, they have like defects. Some of them are a little overweight or whatever. Some of the dudes got hits or whatever, you know, they got like some man boobs, what have you. But when you get to the New Kingdom, you don't see none of that shit. Now it goes right back to God Kings, you know,
Now, if you notice, you could tell that there was an alignment with Baal and Osiris at one time based off the headdress. Now, when you look at the headdress of Osiris and the headdress of Baal, you see the similarity. And a lot of cats, we could make the connection because we got the Owaspy shows that these deities was working together at one time prior to them breaking off. But according to the Kemetic tradition, this crown's supposed to be the crown of like Upper and Lower Egypt, because I think he got both crowns on, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he got one on right now. I forget what crown that is. That's just one.
That's the South. I think that's the South. Wait,
because one of them is red.
Yeah, I don't want to say the wrong shit. Get one of these.
Yeah, I don't either. I forget.
Yeah, it definitely shows. I think like he's from the Sudan, like I don't know, the north or whatever, because it's opposite up there and shit. But nonetheless, the headdress of Osiris and the headdress of Baal is one the same. Like when you put in Osiris, you don't see.
Well, I think that the Egyptians say that Osar, which is Osiris, they admit that he used to be mortal, and that supposedly he comes from the Levant.
Right. So if you look at the headdress of these niggas, it's the same shit. They're sharing the same headdress.
So Osiris is probably a Phoenician when he was immortal.
And you know what? It's funny you say that, because I was thinking, doing the knowledge, like, oh, my screen went out. We were having a build and we was talking about when maybe these gods lived as mortals on Earth. So I was putting like the Osiris, the Baals, and the Asrays. They could have came about during the time of the previous arc cycle, maybe the time of Zarathustra. You know what I mean? Or maybe even the time of Osiris. You know what I mean? But we were just, just hypothetically think, because like all these gods, like it would have been dope as hell if the Owaspy would have had the story of them in their mortal life leading up to what we already know of them. That should have been stew right there.
Yeah, that's probably all in the heavens, because even the Owaspy tells you a lot of the histories you're reading in there are just summaries, which is crazy because they're very informational, but they're just summaries. So that lets you know that whatever is in the heavenly libraries is a lot more to the story, but the Owaspy just pretty much summarized everything and then put it in the Owaspy, which the Owaspy itself, how I look at it, that's a sealed book of Daniel.
You heard about the Romance of the Red Star?
I can't say that I have.
You still on Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Hit me in the messenger. I got some shit to share with you and shit. Well,
I sent you a message a while ago. I don't think you get it because we're not friends no more on Facebook, so it's probably hard for you to get notifications.
I'll unfriend you though. I had unfriend you on there. I mean,
yeah,
I know. You back and shit.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll go see about a request or what have you. Okay, what were you saying?
But you know about Antiquities Unveiled? You know about that one?
Antiquities of what?
Antiquities Unveiled?
No, I'm not familiar.
All right, I'm gonna just shoot them to you when you
okay.
when you email me and shit, because I know you're gonna be on top of that shit. But Romance of the Red Star is like it's like the Owaspy. It is the Owaspy, but it stops at like I think the Book of Lika. And the way it's written, they're trying to say it's the original John Lamb. I got a homegirl named Pam, Awaken to the Truth. She does Owaspy readings like every morning. But they were investigating the John Lake plants, doing like they going in like deep with it. So I'll share all the links with you when we link on the back, because I'll be telling them about you. Like me and Cosmo, I'll be telling like some of the early people who was rocking out with the Owaspy, and your name come up a lot because we got a lot of new people that's up on it and investigating the information. So a lot of hard body research we was doing back in the day, my nigga, we ain't even got to do that shit no more. We got a team of motherfuckers just on it, and they just deliver like, yo, check this out, boom, boom, boom. So you know what I mean? They kick your feet up and just
yeah, y'all got a whole lot of people on Owaspy, bro. I see a whole bunch of people that I never noticed before on Owaspy. I'm seeing people with like signs of the creator and putting vortex symbols up and shit. Like, so y'all, whatever y'all doing is going out there. You know what I'm saying? Cats are starting to gravitate. And then the fact that you on Signet or what have you.
That's where it started, because my man Malachi Maccabee, he had this idea he wanted to do called Battle of the Holy Books. And where it's cutting out all the gossip, where we just dealing with chapter and verse, the topic, chapter and verse. So with that, it cuts out any fuck you a bitch ass thing. All that shit get cuts out, because all you have to do is just go in your book and prove your case. So, we had a couple debates. I had like 2 debates with 2 guys. Cosmo and Cal, he had a debate with like 2 guys. And of course, the Owaspy got the victory. And not just saying that to be arrogant, because if a nigga took an L, a nigga will admit the L. You know what I'm saying? It ain't nothing like that. But we showed how clear the OSP read. The debate I had with the dude was what's the difference between God, and Lord? And you got to prove it according to the text. So
on Sinetta, right?
No. That was on my homeboy Malachi Maccabee channel, honoring
Okay.
humanity, STL. Yeah, that was on his channel. These were the precursors before getting to Sinetta. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, yeah. Because Malachi Maccabee, I heard he's the one that brought y'all to because Madeem, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name bad, bro, but Madeem Ali,
yeah.
I know he's in the. I be chatting with him personally or what have you, and I think he mentioned Malachi Maccabee, and then he brought you guys attention to, or he brought you to Sinetta's attention. So
yeah. Matter of fact, Malachi Maccabee put us in cahoots with FOPE. You familiar with FOPE?
Yeah, I'm familiar with them a little bit. We're Naphtali and them, but that's only through Sinetta for real.
Yeah, that whole camp. So I did a presentation on a channel, and then from there, Cy reached out to me, and then that's how we ended up on Cy channel. And then I gave a presentation, and then it was supposed to be a debate between, like he was trying to have it for the New Year, where between New Year and Christmas, where it's supposed to be like me and Tazariot, and it was supposed to be Cosmo Cal and JJ. You see what I'm saying? But niggas backed out. Niggas got this, scurrying. At that time, you know what I mean? Niggas was just, I don't know, niggas. I'm like, nigga, we just reading from a book. Like, we just coming up with a topic, reading from the book, proving who shit make more sense. But I guess niggas are so embedded in they belief system that the way I would have shattered, you know how we get down, nigga. The way we shatter shit, nigga, it would have been ugly. You know what I'm saying? So it was wise for them to just back out instead of taking the debate, because we would have exposed their God in the Bible as goddamn damn near being Satan with his behavior and his actions.
Yeah, bipolar. You know what I mean? So you could tell it's different deities speaking to that book. That shows you that, a lot what Lil Mon was doing was just co-opting a lot of other deity shit. You know what I'm saying? Just co-opting some of the Baals, ways, put this person to death, put this person to death for every little thing. You know what I mean? That's just, so you're going to see that, especially with the contradictions. That's where I hit them. I don't even go to the OWASP anymore when I'm dealing with the Israelites. I don't feel like I have to. To me, that's
no, you don't.
Yeah, I don't have to even open up. I don't even have to mention the OWASP. The only time the OWASP is going to get brought up if I'm dealing with an Israelite cat that knows that I read the OWASP, and they'll bring it up. But I don't got to bring up the OWASP to trash your shit. Like, at the end of the day, you got over 600 contradictions in your text, inconsistencies. You have doublets of stories, triplets of stories. You know what I'm saying? You got the same shit. You got Abraham doing the same shit Jacob was doing. You know what I'm saying? Or Isaac or what have you. Like, who, for instance, Abraham lying to Pharaoh about Sarah being his sister. Why would you even have to do that? And who did you do that with? You did that with Pharaoh, or you did that with Shechem, or was it Jacob or Isaac? Whichever one, they did the same thing. They did it with Shechem.
Facts.
So it's a doublet of a story. You know what I'm saying? You got Moses going up the mountain like 5-6 times, but he only coming down 4 times.
Hey, I remember you was going hard on the Aaron priesthood. You was saying something about you was going in on the priesthood. It was 2 priesthood or something you was talking about back in the day.
Yeah, it was just the Levites in general, you know what I'm saying? But you had the Aaronite priesthood, and then you had the Kohathites, the people that weren't Aaronites, and the Levites already had a rivalry between them. You know this back with the rebellion of Korah. He told Aaron and Moses that they take too much on them, and they had an issue with them. And Moses told them that, me paraphrasing saying this, Moses said something along the lines of Korah that, Yahweh, the Lord set you aside for his purposes, this, then, the third to, attend the temple things or whatever. But he says you require the priesthood too. You're out for the priesthood too, letting you know that Levites didn't have the priesthood. You needed to be a Levite to be a priest, but not every Levite was a priest. It was only the progeny of Aaron, which leads me to believe that the Levites were originally Egyptian priests, because if you look at Egyptian priests in Egypt, they only dealt with the temples. They didn't deal with the common folk. They dealt with the gods directly. They dealt with the nobilities. You know what I'm saying? And if you look at the story of Exodus, and you look at Moses and Aaron speaking to Pharaoh, they can speak to Pharaoh whenever they want. They don't got to ask permission to come into his throne room and talk to Pharaoh. They can walk anywhere they want in Egypt. That lets you know that the Levites weren't slaves in Egypt. And this all goes back to what was it, Joseph, when he enslaved all the Egyptians or whatever through that what have you, that tax and the famine or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he enslaved everybody. Notice that when everybody enslaved, they gave up their properties. The priests weren't touched.
Mm.
So the Levites had to have been Egyptian priests serving at the temples or what have you, and they must have sympathized with Moses when them plagues hit Egypt. Out of fear, they followed Moses, which that's probably what the Exodus, all the Exodus was a group of Levites. It may not have been all the Israelites, because you got to remember the WASP ain't perfect either. The WASP
Right.
tells you that. So
Right.
it may not have been 3 million people that walked out there, or whatever the WASP states, or even what the Bible states, because I've read
A mixed multitude. We could say that.
it was definitely a mixed multitude. It might have just been a mixed multitude that went out there.
Yeah, that's what I look at it. Just a mixed multitude. You can't, you niggas can't say, oh, they go to tribe. Because if you notice in the story of Moses, they don't talk about none of the tribes. It just classify everybody as Hebrews. You don't say, oh, they go except Levi though. I'm mistaken. Let me take that back.
Well, archaeological history only mentions Levi and Judah. That's
right,
it.
right.
It doesn't mention the 12 tribes. And the Awaspi, when they talk about the Israelites, they're not 12 tribes. They're just two big ass tribes, Iz and Zero. Basically, the whole goddamn Fertile Crescent. Everybody inhabits those regions. Because if you look at Zero, you have Izor or Izmir, places like that. That's what those.
I remember you went in on that. I remember you actually found some names. Yo, I gotta do a
Ali's doing the same shit. You go on Ali's channel. He's up there showing all that with the Persians and Panic Ali, Madim Ali, or what have you. I don't know if I'm saying his name right. No, just Facebook in general. He be posting up.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. He be going hard all day. I ain't been on there in a minute, but yeah, he be going hard.
Yeah. So he be showing that shit. Man. He's the one that showed the hedgehog. That shit threw me off.
Say it again.
He was showing with the hedgehog how the Zoroastrians, they venerate but they put special importance on the hedgehog. Right. I don't know why exactly, but I thought that was interesting in the rings or whatever. And then you play Sonic back in the day. You're the blue hedgehog and you had to catch the ring or what have you.
That's crazy. My shit too. Shit, give me a minute. Give me some time. I'll still play that motherfucker on the PlayStation 4. Dead ass. You be gaming and shit?
Oh yeah, that's why I got off of Facebook. People say I dropped off the face of the earth. That's because I just got off the whole. I wasn't trying to be like a teacher, bro, and I didn't want to have followers, so I fell back. Like during the pandemic, what have you.
That's why I started doing what you see me doing. Because you remember when I used to present my videos, I never show my face. I presented like a fucking class book text type shit. But now, a nigga a while back, a nigga asked me like, "Yo, if I was the Archangel Michael and shit," and nigga was for real. So then I said, you know what? I gotta let niggas see my flaws, see my mistakes, see my slurs, because you got some people out here that'll take you to being some other shit. And I could have been on some nigga, I'm the Archangel Michael, returned 2,000 years and played that role. And you got niggas out here playing that role, trying to be goddamn messiahs and prophets, when my nigga all he is just fucking niggas trying to figure some shit out. You know what I mean? That's it, man. Niggas ain't trying to play holy up and down.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Things are hard out here, bro. You know what I'm saying? Just with the whole, what they lead into or whatever. And then WASP talks about all that, everything that's going on now. You know what I'm saying? With the vaccines, like how that went down and COVID and, and what they're trying to do, the government. You know what I'm saying? The whole Great Reset, which is the New World Order renamed. Go ahead.
No, you good. And you know what the crazy thing about it is that Spanish flu is exactly, you know what I mean, a century later from the COVID. So it's interesting how when the Awaspi talk about them cycles and we could actually validate something in history that aligns with it, I was like, damn. But the crazy thing about it is that we're repeating the 1914 cycle to the 1948 cycle. And the highlights of those cycles was the Spanish flu. That what came after the Spanish flu was the goddamn Great Depression, my nigga, the financial collapse. So my theory is we had the pandemic. My theory is in the 30s, we about to go into the next Great Depression in the 2030s. And then from the 2030s, the next highlight, which is abnormal paranormal, which was the in 1848, which was the Roswell incident, 1947, which is dealing with extraterrestrial UFO, and 2048 is supposed to be the 200-year mark of Cosmon, and that's supposed to be a harvest where the Ethereum is supposed to come down and collect the atmospherics to take them to the ether. So my thing is like, damn, will that event be visible for the inhabitants of the earth to see in 2048? Or will they do it invisibly to keep fear down because that's some shit we ain't accustomed seeing?
I'm not sure. I just know around 2048 is supposedly when you're gonna start seeing like the rise of the fraternities or what have you. Fraternity life. You know what I'm saying? So I think the world is, by that time, the United States probably not going to be united. You're probably going to have different people doing their own thing. Because tribalism, you know, the left, the woke. Because that's another thing I did too. Like when I fell back on, I still did my research of like, you know, sacred texts and ancient history, what have you. But then I started getting into politics. You know what I mean? Like the history of America, what have you. And that's in the WASP too. So I started getting into all those, you know, the politics and the central banking system, the Federal Reserve, the IRS, child support, all these things. I started getting into all that. And, you know, when it comes to, and this is not saying the Republicans are any better, but the Democrats, man, they're the definition of like, they represent what the beast is supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Like with their laws and, you know, the way they get down or whatever. But basically, you know, the World Economic Forum is basically like an organization that all these like top entrepreneurs and CEOs or what have you, very influential, powerful people go to Europe to have these meetings to basically figure out how they're going to run the world, you know, going forward. That's where they talk about climate change and things of that nature. So, you know, long story short, they're trying to, by 2030, they said that by 2030, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. They're going to get rid of all private ownership and private privacy. And they're trying to destroy the dollar to make everything go digital.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? So this way they can control, I guess, the finances or whatever. Kind of like how China got it. You know, see, China's kind of the poster boy, the poster child for that. You know, the social credit system or what have you, which I find interesting because, you know, the Book of Revelation talks about the red dragon and China. The thing is the red dragon.
Exactly. We still deal with Bible prophecy. Ain't nothing changed.
Yeah, so China got a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
and you know the Antichrist, all that shit is just dictatorship.
That's it.
So that's all the spirit of Antichrist is the spirit of dictatorship. So it's definitely gonna get worse before it gets better. Exactly. You know, and I think that's how a lot of the faithists are gonna rise through this new world of not owning anything. You know what I mean? Right. So
it's like a duality world. It's like a duality world order. The creator's world order and then the systematic world order. And it's going to be simultaneously splitting. Like, which way you going? You going over here or you going over here? You know what I mean? Because even in the WASP, it says, before Jehovah's kingdom can come, ooze must fall. So I was like, damn. Like, the way that shit sound like, all right, like, shit, like you say, she got to be. Now, it could be a. My concern is the goddamn the war shit, though. Like, the nukes. You know what I mean? Like, it may get to a point where these niggas want to start disbanding them nukes in the sky, and that's when the angels may come and disarm that shit. I don't know if you ever seen that on Larry King. When on Larry King they showed a UFO, a missile being shot, and the UFO came and shot a laser and disarmed it, and the UFO flew off. And they actually aired that shit on Larry King. I was shocked, but they showed that shit. I don't know if you ever seen that video before. You there? You froze up? But nonetheless, it was a video on Larry King. It was a missile that they was testing. They shot the missile up, and then it showed like a saucer come through, and the saucer hit the UFO with like 3 beams. Bam! It came, hit it like this. Bam! Came on the side, hit him. Bam! Hit him one more time. Bam! And then flew off, and that shit just disarmed the missile. So when the Owaski talk about in the beginning that, you know, he gonna put away war, disband war, I'm like, damn, I wonder will it get to the point where nukes gonna drop? Is it gonna get that bad, or maybe they may just turn the warfare technology into something more accommodable for human beings instead of goddamn trying to destroy this goddamn planet, man. Because they're going crazy in the East, man. They're going crazy in the East right now.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's why, Jehovah had Guatemala, America set apart so people can come over here and be free. Tenson Luamang messed that up. Um, so
When I
but
read
this
the, I ain't gonna lie, bro. When I read
Mhm.
that shit, they watched me how Lil Mung boy got the drop on that shit and ran back to Lil Mung. I was like, this motherfucker. If it wasn't for this nigga here, it would have been a fucking. He probably would have caught wind a little later, but damn, yo, that shit was some bullshit when I read that. Like, damn, that's some cold blooded shit.
Yeah, the slave trade was all Luamang. That was all. That was
Yeah,
his shit. That was his
facts.
shit. Yeah,
Exactly.
slave trade, all that. That was him. He was doing all that,
Mm-hmm.
inspiring them conquistadors or
That's
what have
deep.
you.
Yep.
Yeah, that was all him. Because they came over with the cross.
Exactly. They came with the cross.
They came with the cross. They
They
came with
came
the
with the
Bible.
cross and the Bible. Exactly. That's
Mhm.
Lou amongst at its perfection because he was going through the molding of building himself. He hit Constantine. He finally put his foot down. But by the time he hit the Christian Crusade, my nigga, them niggas coming in Bentleys, got their Ferrari boats and shit like that. They peaking. They you know what I mean?
But listen, Luma was going through it too because it was Baal. That was the one that had that made his mind get all warped. When he was going back and forth Baal, yeah, that's what warped Luma's mind, bro.
But you know what the crazy thing? Who had to be a cold blooded? Because Baal was cold blooded.
Yeah.
But Jabril, my nigga,
Jabril
had to be a cold blooded cat to take all the false gods, including Baal, and the only remaining deities was them three niggas. Yo, that's why I think Islam is one of the coldest religions because they got the military because of Jabril alone. Because Jabril got the best of both sides. He know how to create a stronghold on earth. He a war general. You know what I mean? So that's like having a war general for a president. You know what I mean? Like, all right, this nigga done slaughtered 200 kings. Can you imagine working for a nigga who done took down 200 kings alone or with a band of special forces? So he gonna be like, yeah, he know what he doing. We gonna be fucking with this dude. You know what I mean? So Jabril, yeah, that Islam ain't nothing to play with, man. He ain't playing.
Even when he appeared to Muhammad, that shit wasn't friendly. He told this cat to recite, knowing that he can't read. And he said it 3 times, and he grabbed him 3 times and squeezed him.
Yeah, you familiar with the hadiths? That's right.
Yeah, like I'm not like I don't know him by heart, but I went back when I was.
But you when we used to build back in the day, you used to be spewing shit out from there. Like you used to be on top of your shit.
Because I used to be Muslim for a little bit. I was in the Islamic. That was right before Waspi.
Because I remember when we was going at it with the Muslims, like during them times, you was bringing out some shit from the hadith then. You know what I'm saying?
So, yeah, Gabriel's mentioned all over those hadiths. You know what I'm saying? How Muhammad seen him in the sky, sitting on a throne, and he was scared. Every time Muhammad seen Gabriel, like in the early stages, he was scared. Like, what kind of shit is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, when Jehovah and them come to you, like, first and foremost, Jehovah got it set up to where you can't even see his angels. And they're supposed to be light. You were able to see Gabriel. And when you seen Gabriel, he was scared. He thought like he might have been possessed by jinn. Remember, he ran to his wife and he was like convulsing and shit. She had to cover him. Damn. You know what I'm saying? He thought he might have been possessed. We're not that goddamn cave.
Yo, I should have seen some shit up in this motherfucker. You know what I mean? Nigga, you know what
I'm he ran out the cave and ran to his wife. And then his uncle or whatever, which was supposedly an Ebionite, Israelite, told him that it must have been from God. You know what I'm saying? You're a prophet of the Most High and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Give him that smooth speech.
So, get your ass back in that cave, nigga.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, that's crazy. That's crazy, but that shit is
they were
deep,
probably already in the hands of Gabriel, that Ebionite priest or what have you. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just, yeah, bro, all that shit's connected. It definitely is.
Yeah, man, that shit is deep, man. I'm just like, wow, these niggas. And but what gets me is when the Waspi say that Luabang will be the most hated god that has ever been. I was like, God damn.
Well, he's feeling that now. Because, Luamang, all of them, we tend to talk bad about them, but, at the end of the day, like...
Yeah, they on their redemptive shit.
Yeah, they're trying to clean all this shit up, and you can only imagine how difficult that is. So, for them.
Yeah,
they already got their
think about that. I had to slow down on beating up Lou Among and shit. Like, all right, you know what? Yeah, let me just start talking about but see, you're like, you know what I mean?
You know, that might be him doing that to you, though. That might be him
exactly
making you beat up his old persona. He's probably doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, he probably don't give a shit because he's like, Sailor and them ain't really talking about me. They talking about the old me. So niggas can say whatever the fuck they want to say about me. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right. And then at the end of the day, that's helping liberate his bondage. You know what I mean? If the quicker we expose this shit and the quicker we get more people to realize that, okay, this Christ figure ain't who we thought it was, come back to the creator. The quicker niggas come back to the creator that were Christians, that were Muslims, the quicker their bondage will be relieved. Now, I ain't saying it's going to be overnight because them niggas going to be here damn near half of the whole Cosmon era. Like, if Baal was here, think about it. Baal was here during, you talk about Canaan, during the time of Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom Egypt, 3rd, 2nd millennium BC. And the nigga last reign was with 323 with Maximus at Milvian Bridge with Constantine. That's when he got cast in hell in that battle. But look from 3rd millennium BC to 323 AD. That's how long that nigga was reigning.
You gotta take into account that him and Baal got away when all the old guys got cast in the hell. They managed to
right. That's right. That's right. Yup.
They got away. So, and that's when the triunes came to clear that up, because the triunes at first, they were like, what's the word I'm looking for? They were like vigilantes. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to serve the creator, but in their own selfish ass way, because they didn't want to go down.
Exactly.
You know, unleash the hell or what have you and clean that up. They didn't want to do the dirty work. So they wanted to keep helping the creator, but they were the ones that were willing to dip their hands in blood or whatever and go into war or what have you. But that's because they still didn't understand completely the concept of the creator, which leads me to believe that, makes me think that, you know, you have these gods, these gods that are not necessarily Druze in the sense of being like in chaos or what have you, but they're Druze in the sense of the Zoroastrian term, the lie. You know, they push forth the lie of them being the supreme, their heavens being the all highest, so they can embellish their own kingdoms or what have you. But it shows a lot of how they probably lived, because, you know, I think the Owaspi tells you that when you live at a low spiritual grade, I think at the grade of 1, that I don't think when you die and you cross over, I don't think you remember who you are anymore, because it makes it seem like that when you're an eater of meat, you automatically are at level 1 when you die and you cross over. And you're going to be in the heaven with the animals, which leads me to believe that you're going to be in the heaven that's like the Garden of Eden. You're going to revert back to running around butt ass naked with the animals. You know what I'm saying? So you may not even remember who you are, who you were, and what you knew.
And that's true. And Owaspi validates that, because it talks about how they had to use methods to make the spirits of the dead memorize. I mean, even wake that, like, nigga, you was alive at one time, nigga. Like, these niggas ain't even know. They was like on some sleep shit. They had to use objects, triangles, squares. You know, when they created the subjective heavens in the Book of Fragment Patty to wake up the drudges, because them niggas was sleep. They didn't even know that they existed. You know what I mean? Like you say, it's that you have some mortals that lived a complete adult life, cross over, and they born in spirit like they was born in infancy. I was like, oh man, that's fucked up. But then eventually, those are like the beginning stages. Eventually, they'll regain their conscience. They'll regain self-identity. But just to go through that, it's like, damn.
And another thing, a lot of these false gods, when they were on Earth, they were Gons. They weren't even our ones.
Facts.
They were Gons. So they already had that conquering, like, because that's what the Gons were here for. They were here to show us that sometimes you have to get physical. They were the conquerors or what have you. The Gons really embody what Osiris was supposed to be. Right. You know what I'm saying? That sometimes you have to use force, because that's what Osiris came. He had to use force. Right. There was no more of that, you know what I'm saying? I'm sit back and listen to you. And, you know, Osiris was patient. He just wasn't patient for the bullshit. That's all that was. High
strung.
Yeah, of course.
He was high. He was impatient with high strung self ignorance. Ignorant niggas.
Boy, he made that false god shut his mouth when this false guy started talking or whatever. When that guy seen him, he said, "What?" He said, "This strange guy from what region do you come?" You know what I'm saying? He talks to Osiris. Osiris just breaks through Shivat. comes into his kingdom and calls out to him. He goes like, "Come out and see me, dog!" Like,
right,
and
right. That nigga pulled
and
up
he
right
sees him.
to
He's
his
like, "Yo, who
throne.
the fuck is this?
You
Who's
peeping out
this
your window
dude?"
like, who this dude, Joe? Nigga pull
And
up
I
in
can only
front of your
imagine
door.
what Osiris looked like. Yo, Osiris probably look humble as shit too. He probably didn't even look like nothing for real.
Yo, that shit would be crazy if he a iron like 3 feet tall or 4 feet tall little nigga.
Looking like
Napoleon
Beth, right? Or
complex.
Ptah.
A
You know,
Ptah?
come to think about it, that might have been Osiris. And that's funny thing too, Osiris, the angels that wrote the book of the law of one, if you look at the date that they give you when they appeared in Egypt, that's during the cycle that Osiris was running the earth.
Osiris the first or the one of Egypt? You talking about?
Osiris the Etherian, the first.
Word? So you talking about the law of oneness? You talking about that book?
Yeah, where the angels keep talking I am Ra, what have you.
Yeah,
They
you
come
know
from.
Owaspi's in there, right?
Yeah, I know. I read it
Oh
before.
yeah,
I didn't read the entire book, but I read that aspect of it. That's how I
yeah,
came
me too.
across
Yeah,
it.
I ain't read the whole thing. So you saying what the deity is saying that he existed during the time of what we would consider around that time?
Yeah, because I think the questioner in there, the person that's interviewing the spirit is or the vessel that the spirit is using. I don't remember exactly, but they asked what time frame in Egypt did you come from, and they gave like a date, and I went back and looked at, because I'm still using the dates that you put up. Because remember on YouTube years ago, you did all that shit. You put up the
The
cycles or
hard
whatever.
cycle.
So I'm still using those cycles. You know what I'm saying? I wrote all that
Right.
shit down back in the day. I put all that down in my notes. So when they gave the time frame, I look back, it was during the time of Osiris. Those angels came. And I'm not saying those angels are from Osiris, because you got to remember too that the Owaspy tells you that you got to beware angels that tell you they come from a far off star.
Right.
And they talk. You know what I'm saying? So these angels might have their own agenda. They just might like Owaspy.
Right.
So
Facts.
you got to be careful with that.
Because they gave some credence to the Owaspy, but when they mentioned the Urantia, it said the Urantia wasn't passed through the divine council. I was like, man, okay.
Yeah, because the ranch is basically like a Christian superbook. You know what I'm saying? Like it tries to be like a Waspy, but it's too heavy on Jesus. It's too heavy on the biblical narrative. The Waspy's not like that. The Waspy is pretty universal. You know what I'm saying? You talk about the Israelites, it talks about the Buddhists, it talks about all these people. And like you mentioned before, Jesus only got like one chapter. They barely even talk about him. And why is that? Because everybody else done talked about him. He's the most attested figure in history. So Waspy don't gotta, like, y'all know everything y'all gotta know about him. We don't gotta put him in the book all like that.
And then if he was in the book like that, it'll be irrelevant compared to what's going on in the book. It's like, nigga, the story of China will chop up the story of Jesus. The story of Zarathustra will eat up the story. Half the story of Zarathustra is the story of Jesus anyway. You know what I mean? The hanging of the two thieves on the cross and all that.
The New Testament Jesus, which is an amalgamated character. And that's for some people, they argue if Jesus actually existed. And that's why I make the argument that, yeah, he existed for the sense that he. Go ahead.
No, you good. We was built. I know you know Apollonius of Tyana because we spoke on that back in the day.
Yeah, I've heard of it before. Yeah, heard of him.
Man, we had to speak on that.
We might have before.
Yeah, matter of fact, you know what? Maybe because that's in the book Antiquities Unveiled. Now, Antiquities Unveiled is a book that was channeled like the Owaspy, and it's supposed to be the first century coming on up to like Constantine time. The spirits of those men who lived in those days came in spirit and to testify that the forgery of Jesus Christ, that there was no man named Jesus and stuff like that, but there was a man by the name of Apollonius of Tyana, and he's accredited with a lot of the stuff that Jesus was accredited to, and they were revealing this. Now, you know, when you look for Apollonius of Tyana, and when you look it up, he's a historical person.
Yeah.
But, you know, later on, just hit me in the inbox. I got, let me hit you with that because I know you, nigga. Once you get on something, your ass goddamn get real analytical and really get into it. So that'd be some shit.
Yeah. The New Testament Jesus is an amalgamated character created by Constantine and them. You know what I'm saying? As an effort to one, stamp out the other the true Christian sects would have been the Essenes, the Ebionites, and Nazarenes, because they weren't present when that was going down. So they were trying to get rid of them, of their concepts of Jesus, because obviously you had like Arian and them who they believed in Christ, but they didn't believe in the divinity of Christ, or they didn't believe he was born of a virgin, or that he pre-existed. You know, some what cycle you guys Osiris
talking about?
I
I don't know if he's referring to Osiris of Egypt or Osiris the Etherian, because if you're talking about the Osiris the Etherian, ain't no telling.
He's not even from Earth.
Yeah, because he was in the Etherian. Well, no, I don't know how long he was in the Ether, but he was up there for a minute because he said he illuminated many Etherian worlds, so he had to been up there for a minute if he illuminating Etherian worlds. But if you're
Yeah,
talking
so
about
he
the
was
Osiris,
around. He was around before the Earth even had life, probably. Osiris.
yeah, exactly. He probably was. Yeah. He probably older. Like the Wasp say, there's angels older than the Earth. He probably one of them. But if he's talking about the Osiris of Egypt, you know, because when you look at the Book of Divinity, when they talk about the primary education of the first and second resurrection, it shows you that whole process takes place. If you're consistent within a 400-year period, you can become a Lord God. So, and I know these niggas ain't crossed over and just smoothly became a Lord God in 400 years. They probably, whatever lifestyle they live, had to go through
I don't even know, bro. Look at Moses, bro. They had to go out. They had to look for Moses, bro. Moses was gone.
Yeah, because see, Moses, I'm glad good one. All right, so Moses, we know he died, whatever, 5th, 4th century, 14th century BC.
But that's because of his labor, though. He had a crazy ass labor.
That's another thing. Exactly. Yeah. And so 1,500 years later, he was already in the ether, way out somewhere. And they had to go find him, like you say. So Moses could goddamn be a damn god rolling somewhere right now.
Moses was gone. He was way past. He wasn't. I don't even think he was in our galaxy anymore, bro. I'll tell you the truth.
He was he was an Etherian.
Yeah, he was out of. He was probably like he might have still been in the galaxy. I don't know, but
yeah, he was in some college. He was in some Etherian college when they found him and shit. And I was like, damn, nigga, that's deep. So that's like, you know what I mean, nigga, you know.
But why they had to go find him? They had to go find him because he fucked up by cursing. And excuse my language, you know what I mean? But he messed up by cursing Nugon or Amosa.
Yeah.
He cursed him.
Yeah, I did a video called The Passover Curse, where, you know what I mean, the slaughtering of the lamb and all that was on Moses' hand. He did that because, like you say, he would have been accustomed with the priesthood. And if them niggas, you know, dealing with voodoo and all that, so, you know, you from Haiti, you know, they deal with a lot of killing the animals and spilling the blood to conjure up the spirit and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I had a homeboy, man, he be telling me about that shit, like when they killed the duck or, I mean, the chicken or whatever they killed, you know what I mean, to give power to the, I don't know if it give power, how it works, but that spirit become active. You know?
Yeah, I heard when they sacrificed a lamb on Passover in Egypt, I heard that was a shot at Canum.
Say it again. Canum?
I heard when the reason why a ram was used on the Passover, they sacrificed a lamb is because the Egyptians venerated like rams or what have you because of Canum.
Oh, okay. Shoot,
Canum was a ram-headed deity, which ended up becoming Baal, who was always associated with like horns, bulls, and rams.
That makes sense because Baal, you said, is Malak, so that makes sense.
Yeah, Baal's all those figures with the horns, the bulls, or whatever. And I think the reason why he even used the horns or what have you is because astrologically speaking, I think it was during the cycle of Taurus or some shit like that.
Right. So, and then you notice the bullhorn is a sign of enforced power too.
Yeah. That's why, you know, Luma, semi-addict shall be bulls or what have you.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with Anu. That's why they're depicted with bull's horns or whatever. And during that period, or even before that 10,000 BC, 11,000 BCE, you've seen a lot of cattle raiders or whatever, bull's horns or what have you, before you had the transition to agricultural society, which leads to civilization. You got a lot of barbarians out there like slaughtering cattle with the help of the mumbling priests that Zarathustra would speak about, you know. So the priests, you know, those bloodthirsty priests, they've been around for a long time, that code of animal sacrifice. And that's what the Levites were. They were the code of animal sacrifice that probably primarily came out of Egypt because the Egyptians sacrificed animals and the Egyptians also ate meat. The royalty even ate pork. You know what I'm saying? And if you actually think about it, like I hear that the way they're depicted, those Egyptian kings and queens, that's not how they really looked in real life. Some of them was like obese, balding. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah, all that shit is just...
Yeah, it makes sense though.
Yeah, it's probably not how they really
look like they had the perfect diet and shit. Like, nah, nigga.
That was God King shit, Old Kingdom and like New Kingdom shit. But the Middle Kingdom, you can kind of see defects on the Egyptian statues or whatever. You see like overweight men and shit like that depicted in Middle Kingdom art. You know what I'm saying? Because Middle Kingdom art was more like, that was the shepherd era. You know what I'm saying? Where they weren't really going to war or whatever. They had good trade with the Asiatics. You had a whole bunch of Asiatics there. So that's where Moses. That's where he grew up. He grew up in Middle Kingdom at the end of the Middle Kingdom period.
Right. Exactly.
You know.
Exactly.
So I think the misconception is that people try to figure out that they were like, because I had a cat argue with me before in the past. They're like, you're saying that Moses is Amenemhet the fourth, and that his dad is Amenemhet the third, and his sister is Sobek Neferu, and you're trying to say that the antagonistic pharaoh is Ahmose the first, but you have all this time the transitions. You have the second intermediate period. So they said you have a whole 200 years. How is that possible? And I'm like, well, if you look at it, and I got this from reading the Waspy site, was it you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about. You know,
so that's where I got it from and I didn't think about this when they said that if you take out the Middle Kingdom period, or you just recontextualize it, that the Middle Kingdom that second intermediate period happened at the end concurrently of the Middle Kingdom period.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Those were all just nomarchs going to war and shit like that.
Exactly. Because they have it seeming like the Middle Kingdom ended, like the shit stopped, and hey, all right, we're gonna go in. There's a new ruler, and like all that shit was running concurrent. You see what I'm saying?
And the Waspy already tells you that the records in Egypt were shit. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
They were confusion.
But
and you know that today we don't even know who's who. We don't even know if Narmer is Ka or Scorpion. They're different pharaohs, or if they're the same, because they don't know if he might have had multiple names. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they got that in confusion. They don't know who reigned when or whatever and shit like that, because the records are in confusion, like the Owaspy says.
Exactly.
And that's all it is, man. You just got to go back in history and just find it. And that's what cats have the issue with. They were like, well, the Owaspy was written in 1880 or whatever, and it was published in 1882. So what's going to do about it? I said that's a divine prospect. I'm like, bro, you're saying that, okay, I get it. John Ballard knew, bro. He's getting the revelation of Owaspy. He's writing all these things. So he would have knew of Ahmose. I get that, because you would have had stelas of him or what have you and statues of him. But where on earth did he know that the pyramid building ended with Ahmose? Because they didn't discover, archaeologically speaking, they didn't discover his pyramid before the Owaspy was published. They found it after the Owaspy was published. And when they found his pyramid, it wasn't a tomb. It was a cenotaph.
Mm-hmm.
That means nobody was buried there. It wasn't used for that, which showed you that he used it differently. And after that, you seen the fall of the pyramid building. I'm like, well, how did he know that? Y'all over here making fun of John Ballard saying he's just a dentist. He got high off his own shit. Well, was he an archaeologist too? Was he an anthropologist too?
If he all that, this goddamn Owaspy whooping y'all Bible ass if that's the case, because what he's saying lines in history. Like, even what he like, look at the story of Zarathustra, that whole Persian shit. Like, nigga, what y'all got to say? Y'all don't even know about Zarathustra. Them niggas don't even know about Zarathustra in the Hebrew Israelite community. They don't know about that shit. You know what I mean? Them niggas don't have Confucius and things and Gautama Buddha. All that shit is in the Owaspy, and it shows you the synchronization. And them niggas, this shit far over them niggas' head. It's like school. It's like you got school, when you in class, you got niggas in class who catch it, they get it, and you got them niggas who get frustrated and they do this because they can't catch the assignment. That's them niggas.
Yo, Garfield done kicked me off his channel one time because I mentioned the Owaspy. I was on there one time. He didn't know who I was. Everything was good up until I mentioned the Owaspy. And the only reason I mentioned the Owaspy, I was trying to tell him, they were talking about Egypt, because, you know, he's getting ready to have his little debate with Jabari that never went down. He was asking me, because I made a little comment. I said both the Greeks and the Egyptians were influenced by the Persians. So he stopped me. He's like, I'm not trying to argue with you. He's like, but I heard that before, but I don't see it. So he's like, where'd you get that from? So I started talking to him, and I told him that, you know, in the Owaspy, it says that the Egyptians wrote Exodus. And then he was like, hold on. He's like, you mentioned in the Owaspy. He's like, why are you going to mention the Owaspy? It's an 1800 book. I said, nah, because that's where I got that knowledge from. He said, so you got the knowledge from there? I said, yeah. So when I got the knowledge from there, I went back and I went to look at sources that were unrelated to the Owaspy to see if there was any credence to that. And then them cats started having an issue. I forget who was cutting me off. I don't know if it was Smash Rockwell or one of them cats was on there not letting me speak. And Garfield was just letting it fly. The first time I went at it with Unc wouldn't let me speak. The first time I got cut off, and they got me out of there. That's when I mentioned Chief X, because, you know, them cats are scared of Chief. They don't want to deal with the Chief. You know? So I mentioned Chief X. Garfield got rid of my ass, and then that's on StreamYard. So I'm blocked off of StreamYard. I can't get on Garfield's channel. I mean, now when he has Zoom, he put me in the back chat because I mentioned the Owaspy. Another cat was like, why are you going to bring up the Owaspy? And I brought up you guys. I'm like, look, Garfield, you said you wanted to argue with Sailor Shalom. You wanted to debate him about the Awaspi not being needed and shit like that. But the Awaspi already tells you that a lot of the information it provides is nothing new. And the book already tells you it's not perfect. So in reality, Garfield, you have no argument against the Awaspi. Because the book already tells you it's not perfect. So we kept on saying about a faith is that they understand the book is not perfect. So the more inconsistencies the book has actually works to the advantage of the faithists. Is the reason that is so because we don't worship books. That's the whole thing.
Facts. And that's what they,
you know what I'm saying? We don't give ultimate authority to a book. So that's why the book has inconsistency. The angels did that on purpose. So cats don't be all Awaspi this, Awaspi that. You know what I'm saying? There's other books you have to correlate and you have to do your own due diligence. That's why those things are in there. So I told him, I said, you really don't have no argument. But I'm like, you cats got all up in arms with telling them showed up. I said, I'm not even a part of that camp. But I said, you guys show that you're afraid of them. And right when I started saying all that shit, they cut me off. That was it. I mean, the back chat.
Nigga, you a part of this camp, nigga. You ain't going nowhere, nigga. You still here.
Shit, nah, but it was just during that time I said that shit. But that
but nah, it's crazy because when I see you on Sinetta, I was like, yeah, niggas coming home, boy. It's that time because we was trying to go ahead and set the tone for the debates because we know Sinetta ain't biased. He don't believe in none of this shit. But if the shit making sense, he'll whatever. You know what I'm saying? So we was like, nigga, let's have this battle of the holy books. Y'all say that, you know what I mean? Y'all standing on God. So, you know, the Bible is the word of God. We got a book saying it's the word of the creator. Let's cross comparisons, see who shit making more sense, who shit ain't making more sense. You know what I mean? And we put the challenge out there for all the holy books. That include the Kemetic niggas. They got literature and science too. They got, you know, papyruses. They got the, you know, the so-called Book of the Dead or whatever the case. You don't notice them niggas don't be reading from that shit. Like, you know, the artwork and the, you know, the architect is wonderful. We got great architect today, but we want to know what the literature's saying.
And you can see what spirit I'm coming in. Look at my my picture there. Who's that? That's Gore the God Butcher.
Who's? Oh, you talking about on what's the movie? Was that
Thor: Love and Thunder?
You said from where?
Love and Thunder.
No, I ain't familiar with it.
Yeah, like Marvel Comics or whatever. It's like some.
Oh, okay, got you.
Yeah, they hit you with the gods. He used to pray to the gods, and the gods didn't do shit for him, so he lost his family. So he went crazy, and he went on. He found this crazy ass sword called the Necro Sword, and he went around killing gods and shit. So he called himself Gore the God Butcher. So I used the photo, and I call myself Lucius the Bible Butcher. You know,
that's right, man. It's that time, man. We gotta expose this guy because, you know, when I was reading, I was doing a couple vids on Judges chapter 20, you know, which was the wars against the house of Israel and Benjamin, and I was just showing the nature how diabolical God is, because, you know what I mean, he's playing both. He's playing favor to the house of Israel, but he's playing an adversary to the Benjamites. So I'm like, how can y'all follow this God who's supposed to be your most high? And in this very chapter, he's showing you his true colors. The Benjamites would be looking at the house of Israel as their enemy, and God is consulting with the house of Israel. So how would Benjamin look at that? How would the tribe of Benjamin look at God? Because the God is in opposition to the Benjamites, because the house of Israel is saying, yo, should we go up again and fight against the Benjamites? And God said, yeah, go up tomorrow and do better. So for the Benjamites, God like, nigga, what? Why should I follow you when you telling these niggas to come slaughter us? Why would I give you worship? So niggas ain't even really digging deep on the nature of the God they claim to be following as their most high.
And also look at the whole story with King Mesha and the Moabites. When King Mesha stopped giving tribute to the king of Israel, so the king of Israel went and got the king of Judah, which is Jehoshaphat, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Jehoshaphat. And then when they got the king of Edom, which they don't name who that was. So it was the king of Israel, which I think was Joram, who was part of the house of Omri. And then you had Jehoshaphat from the south, Jerusalem, and the king of Edom goes to King Mesha, to Moabites, and they were given orders by God how they were going to take the land or destroy the land utterly. They were going to destroy every fortified city. You know what I mean? Stop up the wells or what have you, put stones here, whatever. And they go over there and they do it. They go to war with the Moabites because the Moabites, you know, stop paying tribute. And they do everything Yahweh tells them to do. And everything falls according to plan. They pretty much take care of damn near all the fortified cities, but they get to the main city. I forget what it was called, where Mesha was situated. And Mesha, they try to get to the king of Edom. They get pushed back. So King Mesha takes his firstborn son and sacrificed them on the wall. So there was still a wall letting you know that they didn't take the last city. And when he sacrificed his son to Chemosh, the god of the Moabites and the Ammonites, it said a divine wrath, or a wrath was, against Israel, and they all fled.
Right.
So that's like the first written account where Yahweh in the Bible takes an L to another deity. Because it couldn't have been Yahweh's wrath, the Israelites' wrath, because they were told to push forth and take down the Moabites. But as soon as King Mesha sacrificed his son on that wall, there was a divine wrath that the Israelites ran. So they bitched out and they ran, so they lost because they were supposed to take every fortified city and they couldn't take the main capital. Because it tells you King Mesha sacrificed his son on the wall, so the wall was still standing. Fortified cities have walls. They were supposed to take down the walls. They didn't. So they failed in that endeavor. I brought that up to the Israelites, but we'd be back and forth. They don't want to admit it. They were like, oh, well, they lost because the king of Israel was evil or whatever. I said, yeah, but if you look at the text, it tells you that he wasn't as evil as his father. So if he wasn't as evil as his father, why is Yahweh gonna just leave them cold and dry like that? You know what I'm saying? That doesn't work. And then he had Jehoshaphat with him. Remember, Elisha didn't even want to entertain the king of Israel. But since Jehoshaphat was with him, he entertained them. So you think God is going to take one of his righteous kings and dick him over with one of his bullshit kings? Doesn't make any sense. I said Yahweh took an L, bro. That's all it was. When that man sacrificed his son, a divine wrath was against the Israelites, and it was the wrath of another deity. And even the Israelites told them, the Moabites or whatever, the Ammonites, or what was it? It was an Amorite king that got control, that, our God gives us an inheritance and Chemosh gives you an inheritance. So they're already acknowledging another deity and that these deities give inheritances. So at that point, Yahweh is only a tribal God. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And that's but we know Yahweh, according to Waspi, is the creator, but we also know that false gods can also take on the name of Yahweh.
Exactly. That's what Lex Vortex was on here the other day, and that's what he was getting at. He was like, yo, man, I gotta let go of that Yahweh Jehovah. But I'm like, our approach is different because we understand that the Jehovah approach from the Owaspi is dealing with creator. And like you say, it shows you how these false gods assume to be even calling on the name of the creator. You know what I mean? So we can distinguish the difference. So according to the Bible, Yahweh is one of the Elohim based off how the Bible reads. You know what I mean? Yahweh, Elohim, or the Lord gods. Because when you translate, every time you translate the word God, in the Bible into Hebrew, it brings to Elohim. It gives us the plural. It don't even give us the primary root, El. It gives us Elohim. So if it says Lord God, it's saying Yahweh Elohims. And that sounds more like a council or a group of beings called Yahweh Elohim and shit. But that's just dealing with the etymology and its proper translation of how if we're dealing with it in the Hebrew. So the translators, I ain't gonna lie, the translators, they did a horrible job, yo.
Mm-hmm.
They did a horrible job because every time you see God in English, for us, we thinking singular. But then when you translate it to Hebrew, it's plural. So
it was always plural. They try to make it seem like it was they say that bullshit is plural majesty or some shit. They always try to Muslims make that argument.
The majestic plural.
Yeah, plurality or some shit like that or whatever, because over there in the Quran, that's how Allah speaks. We revealed or we revealed that we did that. And that's another interesting thing. Like the only time God talks like that and the collective is in Genesis 1. He don't talk like that ever again throughout the whole Bible. When do you see God say we, our, this, and the third all throughout the Torah besides Genesis in chapter 1? And that's not even Yuhevave because it says Elohim. It's only until chapter 2 that you see now Yahweh Elohim.
Exactly.
Two different authors, you know what I'm saying? One's using Elohim the gods, and now the other one is Yahweh Elohim. Right. Yahweh, Word of gods, or Yahweh of gods, or like you said, Yahweh, who is one with his council of gods. Because God sits among the council, so that tells you that there has to be other gods. So when Isaiah 44 or 43 tells you that there is no one besides me, that's bullshit, because obviously there are. You sit in a council.
Exactly.
What are you saying?
Exactly.
There's nobody besides you. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's people besides you, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have other gods besides you, but obviously you're pushing this monotheistic Zoroastrian or Mithraic propaganda, you know what I'm saying, through Ezra. So that's what that is, you know, at the end of the day. Cats just gotta do their research, man. That's all it is. Like
and that's why I stay on the neck of the false god, or that's why I stick to the God topic. You know what I mean? I don't too much care about the tribal shit no more at this point. The Israelite, the Camites, the Disites, the Amorites, the tribal shit, the nationality shit. I could care less. I'm addressing the gods because the gods got the nations behaving like they do. Jacob I love, but Esau I hated. So niggas hate Esau because the Lord said it. God is angry and jealous because and niggas is approving of it. So it's like I'm standing on the neck of the gods, nigga. I don't give a fuck about what nationality these niggas talking about. Yo, God is the most diabolical nigga right now, claiming to be the creator, and we gotta expose that, and we're gonna continue to expose it, because if we don't expose it, niggas is gonna end up in the region that we formerly know as Pine Oil Heaven.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
That's where you headed, boy. To Pine Oil Heaven.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire.
That's where you headed, boy. To Pine Oil Heaven.
Chestnuts roasting.
That's where niggas is headed, bruh. If they don't get it right, they're gonna be burning and they're gonna be in one of these atmospheric hells with suffocating gases if they don't get this shit right. We trying to spare these niggas.
You know, that's another thing too. You know, I think somewhere later on in the Owaspy, I forget where exactly, but it says, and I want to say it's in the Book of Oranathan, but it may not be. It's probably the Book of Judgment. I think where it says that something where God's dismantled all the atmospheric gods. They're dismantled or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the big head hunch gods back in the day, like Baal, Luomang, and them. I think that whole like organized criminal organization of gods is pretty much done with. I think now what you have is like lower petty gods that deal with like the churches and temples.
Facts.
So I don't really they're organized like they used to be. So as far as that hells, I think the majority of the hells are probably cleaned up. But I think all people are going to end up what's going to happen to them is they're just going to be in the lower regions. You know what I'm saying? They can still get thrown into like a pit or a hell, not necessarily by those gods or those angels, just by that could have been a cat you had issues with in the past. You might have, you know what I mean, issues with him, and then you might have tried to take your life and you killed his ass or some shit like that, and then you meet him again. And then when you meet his ass again in the spirit realm, he's trying to throw your ass in a pit of fire somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So that's the type of shit you got to worry about. Cats be thinking all kind of like, you know, they read a wasp or spirituality, they think all grandiose with it. But in reality, anybody can do anything too. Because the lower heavens, to me, when they talk about the lower heavens, that shit sound like to me when you walk around at night in the hood, when you walk the streets at night.
Yeah, that's
anything can happen.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
All kinds of shit going on. You got drug deals. You got hookers doing this. Facts. You got cats just up to you know what I mean? Just freaks come out at night and shit like that. That's how I look at the lower heavens, bro. Walking the street at night.
That's when my homie Uriah, my man Uriah with the turban, he used to say the same thing. He used to be like, yo, I bet you that first resurrection is off the chain. Like, it's everything goes. Because you, like you say, you got all the spirits of the dead who done died. They become lingering spirits. So you're talking about, think about all the people who died in the 70s, in the 80s. Just those two generations, those two oddies, 11-year cycles alone. Them 10 years, them 20 years right there. All them souls. The people who were murdered, who goddamn died of disease.
Spirits of vengeance or what have you. Or look at the one of the books, because you know John Ballanu, bro, he didn't publish the entirety of Owaspy. You got books like the Book of the Prophet where they talk about, which is crazy because they really talk about the state of the black community.
Exactly.
All them slaves to the slave trade, Jim Crow and shit like that. A lot of them people they pissed off right now for good reason, but it tells you in that book that a lot of those spirits went into being criminals. You know what I'm saying? So that really shows you that shows you a lot of trauma that's on the black community and how the black community is like fucked up the way that it is. You know what I'm saying? Because you have these spirits of their ancestors that are just mad, bro. You know what I'm saying? They're pissed off. And they want some time
to know good. It's like, even when I read that shit, it was like, it ain't like they pissed off and they getting justice for it's like, nigga, this is getting worse. Like, y'all got to figure this shit out. They you know, they get back that slave master and now they both in hell. It ain't like, oh yeah, you hung me, so I'm gonna get you back and everything gonna be okay. It's like, nah, nigga, both parties are still fucked up. I was like, damn.
Yeah, of course. They environ them with evil and shit like that, because you can't kill nobody. Like, you come across, you can't kill nobody no more in the afterlife. So all you can do is torture him. You can only really torture a nigga for so long. You know what I'm saying? So after a while, either you're gonna spit his ass out, throw him somewhere, throw him in a pit, leave him there. You're probably gonna be like, all right, dog, I'm done whipping your ass. Now you're gonna do what we do. Now you're gonna come and they're probably gonna put you to footwork. You know what I'm saying? Put you out on the streets and shit like that, and start doing, mischievous shit. That's plenty of things you can do in the spirit realm. It's so vast, bro. You know what I'm saying? That's why I tell cats you gotta watch when you're talking about killing your ops and shit like that, because in reality, all you're doing is you're giving them a head start against you in the spirit realm.
Exactly.
That's all you're doing.
Yeah, and the way the murder rate, and you know what? It's like right after, it's like this shit came with COVID, because right when COVID hit, and after COVID is when like the murder rate just started going crazy. It's like, I don't know what the fuck, like the time of Ajah done fell on niggas, and niggas is in a state of war, because they're like, especially in Philly, boy, I'd be like, God damn, Philly going crazy with the murder rate. I'm like, I just be thinking about, because I remember I was watching this news clip, and they was talking about how the cemetery was full. They ain't had no more space to put the bodies. And they was like, oh, these bodies are young men, black men from, gang banging and whatever, the ops, that whole lifestyle, the drill culture lifestyle. So it's like, yo, these niggas is crossing over in spirit, some of in chaos, some in vengeance and anger, and then they're recoiling back their spirit upon mortal to inspire that shit to keep moving.
Shit, most in vengeance and anger, bro, because if you look at drum music, it has a tendency to disrespect the dead, the ops and shit. These cats out here doing the most, going out to, it's bad enough they done killed you. Then they go to your grave site, shoot a video, piss on your grave, pour bottles in your grave, take pic, you know what I mean? Burn your photo and shit like that, put it up. They do some wild ass shit. And the spirit, even if you're not seeing that shit, the spirit realm, they all see that shit. Someone's gonna tell you, so that shit's gonna get you pissed the fuck off. You already dead. You got no kind of spirituality in you. You was just a street nigga. You was out here doing your thing. You got fucking taken out, and now you wander in the spirit realm, and then you see this nigga doing all this wild shit. Of course, it's gonna provoke you to anger. And now you're going to try to find a way to get back at that cat. You know what I'm saying? Which is going to lead to you trying to figure out, like, yo, what can I do? Blah, 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 blah. You're going to go to other spirits. They're probably going to tell you, oh, you can do this, you can do that, lie in wait for a soul, or want to inspire that cat to be worse. It can get dangerous. You know what I'm saying? You can deal with a spirit that can learn some shit and be like, yo, I can attach myself to this individual, and I can be like a guardian over them, and I can get it to where I can keep their spiritual grade low. So when they cross over, I can get their ass. You know what I'm saying? Because their angels ain't gonna be around.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? They can come to that knowledge. That's what you gotta watch for.
And then it talks about trained warrior angels. So you got niggas who's trained in this field. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you want this nigga dead? I can have this nigga dead for you in 2 weeks. What's good? Huh?
Like cats don't want to kill us. Well, we know. Not saying we perfect and shit like that, but we're gonna die with all this knowledge that we know.
Yeah, we, it's like we ain't out there like banging and shit. Like, you know what I mean? We made it past those phases. Every generation got they era where they go through mischievous, but like now the level of disrespect is at an all-time high. Cause like you say, going to niggas' funerals. I heard one nigga, mother, the mother was at the funeral. I mean, at the graveyard seeing her son. And the ops got word that the mother was at the graveyard and killed her at the graveyard where her son at. You know what I mean? I'm like, nigga, that's savagery at all high. And what's worse than one thing that's worse than the false gods is those gang drudges in spirit.
Exactly.
Them is
they can fire you and shit like that. And you read the book. You said you read it before, Life in the World Unseen.
Yeah, that shit is litty lit.
Exactly. So that's what leads me to believe that there's no more because remember the heaven that he was in. That's why I don't believe like the false gods are like the way they were, because he was in a heaven where you've seen all these people in houses with different beliefs or what have you. Right. But they were all cohabiting. You know what I'm saying? The only thing they weren't allowed to do is that they were basically tolerated in that heaven. They were still under their mental bondage, but they were good people for the most part. You know what I mean? Lived their physical lives. The WASP tells you that too. The WASP doesn't tell you that, oh, you got to follow this religion or you got to read this book. If you're a good Christian, you're a good Muslim, you treat people the way you want to be treated, you might be in mental bondage, but that don't mean that you're going to be in a bad place when you cross over.
Exactly.
You're going to be something you tolerated. And you yourself in the Life in the World Unseen, they were tolerated there. The only thing they weren't allowed to do is they weren't able to preach to other spirits. They weren't able to try to gain converts to their religion. That was a no-no.
Right.
You believe what you believe. You stay over there with that shit. I stay over here with that shit. And we good. We can commingle, whatever. But don't start trying to get me to believe in Jesus or Buddha or whatever. They don't do that there. So, but in the same vein, right? When they take this cat to the lower regions, when he was talking to his mans, the spirit guide that he used to rock with when they were alive, he said that when they were talking about the lower regions, he's like, can you go to lower regions and the upper regions as freely as possible? He says the upper regions you can't. You know what I mean? And you know, in the book, by nature, he couldn't do it because he wasn't at a high spiritual frequency.
Right.
So he couldn't inhabit these higher regions because he couldn't breathe or what have you, because the atmosphere, the ether was at a more rarefied state. But when they were talking about the lower regions, he was like, the lower regions you can go to whenever you want, but it's ill-advised, because you can go down there and you can get caught up and stay stuck down there.
Facts.
Which leads me to believe that these angels can grab you and hold your ass hostage.
Yeah. Because Owaspy already say that in the book of Thor 113. It says, those who are captured and kept in ignorance of Jehovah in his vast creation. But the key word is captured and kept. Like these niggas, you got motherfuckers out there and, capture you after your death. Even in the movie Ghost, you see, when that one dude who killed Patrick Swayze in the movie, when his time came, the drudges came and dragged his ass off into Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
So the shit deep, man. It's like, damn. I remember one time you was building back when, and you was like, during pre-pan, right before pan or whatever. What was the percentage rate? Like 80% of people crossing over went up in a knot in hell. I was like, damn.
Yeah, it was getting crazy. The heavens were being infested.
Exactly.
So he had to cut that shit off like a cancer. That's why it got destroyed or what have you, got submerged. And that story was wild. And some people be like, look, your creator in the Waspy says thou should not kill, but look, he's killing. I said, yeah, but when he killed them, right, when he submerged the planet, the land, the continent, the island continent, he also had spirit blankets ready. He had all the angels ready to
he had a redemptive plan. Right.
He had a plan. See, this is why it says that thou shalt not kill. We as mortals, if I take your life or you take my life, one, I don't have the power to put your life back, and I don't have the power to send your spirit where it needs to go. So now, if I kill you, me and you, we get into an altercation. At the time, depending on what it is, we're not worried about each other's spiritual grade. So if it gets crazy, that's not going to come into account. But it's going to come into account when the shit already done popped off. You kill someone, let's say you kill someone, they had a low spiritual grade. Obviously, that's not your fault. That's their problem. They live their life how they lived. But it is your fault that spirit, that unripe spirit, is now entering into the spirit realm and now possibly becoming a trial to both angels and mortals. So now when you yourself cross over, eventually at some point during your spiritual, education, if you choose that, and you have the grace to have that, you know what I'm saying, then you're going to be confronted with that. At some point, the angel, there's no reason to tell you like, yo, remember so-and-so you had a problem with, right? Well, this is what's going on over here, and you need to clean this shit up.
Exactly. Yep.
And now it's going to be a problem because you're going to have to reconcile with that spirit. And depending on how you killed them, the circumstances of death, they may not be so responsive towards you. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So how long it takes for you to reconcile with that spirit, that's your punishment. You know what I'm saying? And some cats will argue, well, what if they try to kill me and my kids and shit like that? At the end of the day, thou shalt not kill. You know what I'm saying? I understand what you're saying. If you do kill, you just got to know there's consequences for that. And that's it.
So and that's a good analogy. That's a good analysis right there, because people came to me with that. But what happens if you got to defend your kids and somebody breaking your house? I said, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you the consequence. So say somebody do come in your house and you kill them, save, in defense of your family, and you feel you in the right. We all gonna feel we in the right. Somebody breaking in our shit and we kill him. Yeah, he broke in my shit, we killed him. That don't change the rules of the spiritual game. If that nigga got vengeance on his heart, regardless of you right or wrong, when your ass cross over, he can still get your ass if he got vengeance on his heart. They ain't got shit to do with how you feel. They got to do with, you just gave this nigga the head start in the spirit world, and depending on how his spirit is, whether it's vengeful or remorseful, because the nigga may get up there, be mad, and be like, yo, this the greatest thing that ever happened, nigga. It's beautiful up here. Damn, look at all this boom, boom, boom place to go investigate.
Yeah, he might forget about you, bro.
Yeah, he not only that, he may come and be your deliverer and redeemer when you cross over in spirit. But when you see him, you're gonna be in panic and fear because you see the man you killed, but he's coming to redeem you instead of doing harm. So that shit could go. It's variables to this shit.
Definitely, yeah. You can kill somebody, bro. They go on the afterlife and they be mad for a little minute, and they be like, you know what? Man, fuck that nigga, bro. I got all this shit going on right here like that. And yeah, it could be like that. Or they could become vengeful. You know what I'm saying? It just depends on the circumstance. They might have had kids. You know what I mean? You done took their life. Now they don't know what's happening to their kids. They want to get back at you. You know, there's a whole bunch of shit, but I mean, it's not an easy pill to swallow.
That's like FBG Duck. And then he in spirit. But then when King Von cross over, say FBD Duck come to greet him and help him in spirit. But then when Von see him, he like, no, that's my op. But he like, nah, my nigga. Boom, boom, boom. And them niggas working together instead of being ops. You see what I'm saying? It's like the variables to the shit is crazy. Because the way Owaspi described that spiritual world is beautiful. But then, like you said, you got that lower realm. Like when Life in the Unseen, when it described that lower realm, my nigga, it said, yo, there was people with fucking claws looking like what we would consider demons and gargoyles and motherfucking, you know, monsters and shit like that. They just and then it said, yo, these were one-time people that walked on the surface of the earth, looking hideous like that.
The evil was transforming them. It was making them go back to, like you said, it was making them revert back to a beast.
That shit, yeah, that's deep, yo. So when we see these tales about demons and you know, not saying horns or whatever, but just hideous form creatures, gargoyle, demon-looking motherfuckers, kind of find out it ain't too far-fetched. You know what I mean? I'm like, yo, just imagine, because I it's this one cat named Saint Laz. He a New York nigga from Brooklyn, and he tells a story about when he was locked up in jail. But it's this one story he told when they was in upstate New York at this place called Happy Hudson. It's like a spot where young niggas go, but it's out like a jail and shit. But it's like a compound. Like I forget how he described that shit, like a cottage. It's a cottage and shit like that. One of them old school shit from the early 1900s. But the nigga described how it was a spirit, a young girl's spirit roaming in the joint. But one of his men's in there said he was laying down, and then he said, you know, when he opened his eyes or whatever, it was a fucking demon, like right in his face like this. And then he said the motherfucker walked off like a little small hideous demon. You know what I mean? And then he asked to get the fuck up out of there, whatever the case may be. But the way he described that story and the way he described what his man seen and the way he described how the nigga was like, yo, y'all niggas is crazy as fuck if you're going to stay up in here after what the fuck I done seen. You know, and this is nighttime, of course, and that place where they were staying at, it used to be a all female, like a jail or a juvenile detention center in the early 1900s, and a young girl got killed there, and the spirit still is in there because it been confirmed or whatever. And it was interesting how he described that gargoyle or that demon, and coming to hear from Life in the Unseen talking about these hideous forms, and then you got the Owaspi talking about these drudges that could be, you know what I mean, low grade. And it makes sense because you ever seen a female in school looking good, and then you see her several years after high school and she done got overweight, fat, looking sloppy or whatever the case may be.
Or start taking drugs and start looking like the pepper or shit. Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? So just imagine the spiritual body forming and changing. If you're not trying to get better, you're getting darker and darker in darkness, and you start looking like a goddamn demon and shit. I said, this shit is crazy.
Yeah, that's why in Life in the World Unseen, one of the things they don't do, the bull was told not to do, because he seen a man that looked like he was middle-aged. But he said he didn't give him an age because in heaven, in those regions, they got to be careful when they try to put an age on somebody, because age doesn't work that way in the heavenly regions. You know, when you rise in power, light, and love, you tend to look younger.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, you look more purified, and typically you go back to, because then some people make the argument, so you're gonna go back to a child. Like, no, you go back to basically the prime of your life, which is like your 30s. Right. You know what I mean? That's why some people, unrelated to like the Owaspi or whatever, but related to supernatural and afterlife experiences, what have you, when they see like their grandparents or their parents and they died at old age and they see them again, they tend to see them looking a lot younger.
Exactly. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So that's probably more because when they died, they were at a moderate or a pretty good spiritual grade when they crossed over. But the opposite is that when you die at a low spiritual grade, it takes an effect on you as age. Age is a sign of corruption. So in the heavenly regions, when you regress and you fall into debauchery or whatever and corruption, you start to look older and shit like that. And it gets even crazier, like you say, and you keep going crazy and crazy, like the spirit of a pedophile or a murderer or whatever.
Yeah.
You start to gain
Like a nigga
hormones and red eyes, and you start smoking out the nose and your mouth, and
like
yeah, you
that's
start
real.
really, yeah, because that's what you really are. Because the spirit life is mentalism,
Exactly.
right?
That's
So
facts. That's like these great slaughterers of men, like your Mussolinis and your Hitlers. Like how these niggas probably could be looking hideous in form. That
it's
shit
just
deep,
scary,
yo.
bro. Yeah, it is deep. That's why you got to be careful. You know what I mean? The spirits of vengeance. We were talking about these murder capitals or whatever, all these cities that have all these murder rates. That's all spirits of vengeance, dog. That's all that is. They getting killed, these young kids, and they
Right.
out there inspiring their little homies and shit like that to go out and get revenge and shit. That's all that shit is. For real, for real.
Exactly. And I was like, yo, the damn floodgates must have opened with these judges when when the pandemic hit, because it was like, yo, the way evil has flourished, it was like, yo, it must have been a floodgates of drudges just goddamn then flew they all then flew they ass from somewhere and landed over here and got to working, because it's like, damn, boy, where all this killing and it's so everywhere. It's like, yeah, this shit got to be spiritual. It got to be heavily, because it's global. All over the United States, I should say. I don't say global. I just deal with our state. I mean, our country. It's all over the states, everywhere. Chicago, Atlanta, New York, Cali. It's like all of them on the same demon time. Like they say, demon time. See that?
Yeah, demon time. They wasn't talking like that at first. Remember, they started at first. It was a little god complex. I'm the god. You know what I mean. I'm the god of this and this and the third. Wayne and them was talking like that, but now with this drill music and shit like that, little niggas out here saying that they gods. They out here saying they on demon time. They demons and shit like that. All right, little niggas. So when you die, you on demon time, and your ass get caught up with some real demons. Start talking that shit
Exactly.
down.
Exactly. And that's the thing. These niggas, just like in jail, niggas get caught up and be screaming like bitches when they get locked up. But then y'all playing on a whole nother playing field. Y'all playing with death. Y'all don't know nothing about the other side. Y'all niggas over here shooting, killing niggas, taking life like niggas gonna get a restart tomorrow and start all over again. I'm like, boy, y'all niggas don't know what y'all doing.
Some cats be like, "Oh, I don't care. I'll kill, and I won't think twice about it and shit like that. I won't argue with you. I'll be like, all right, bro, that's cool. Just keep that same energy when you go, and you
Yeah.
get content with that shit. That's all I'm saying. Don't play a bitch. Don't be in front of true God and shit, crying and shit like that, talking about, oh, you know what I'm saying? Like, because if I see your ass, I'm gonna call you out.
Nigga, I've been around niggas who done killed, right? They done did their time and came home. When I told them niggas about, I read, like Big Boy in the back, I read some of these motherfucking verses of the Owaspy about how spirits can retaliate. Nigga, I done had niggas like, let's talk for a minute. Like, hold up. Say what? I was like, yeah, niggas you killed can sit and wait for your ass to when you cross over and get back in spirit. Had niggas thinking, had niggas pondering, had niggas wondering, like, yeah, this shit that deep. And then it's good enough, it's dope enough that we got information telling us this. Cause just imagine niggas who don't know, don't got a clue, and they doing this shit. You know what I mean? I don't see some of them goddamn killers on YouTube and shit like that. I'm like, goddamn, niggas shooting shit up, niggas dying in the heat of the moment and the gun flare. I was like, niggas getting walked up, niggas getting popped in their face, dying like that. I'm like, damn. And these is niggas who's not spiritual, who don't know. God
Look,
forbid something like that happen to one of us. We still, navigate like, all right, whatever the case, our spiritual is different, but some of these niggas ain't got no clue. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, bro. Fictional example. What we talking about? Spirits of vengeance. Freddy Krueger, right? Pedophile, child murderer, right? Kills kids, rapes them or whatever, kills them. You have the family, instead of going to the law, they decide to take street justice, burn the man alive. You know what I'm saying?
Perfect example.
You know, the pedophile shit like that. I get it. I understand. I see. But now what happens? He crosses over. All he worried about is, damn, they done got me. They burned me alive. This cat done become a whole demon. And now he goes back and kills his victims and they sleep. kills their parents and they sleep. He become vengeful. He didn't give a fuck that he was raping and killing all these kids. He was only concerned the fact that they got vengeance on him and killed his ass and the way they killed him. So now he want to go back. No remorse for what he did. He didn't sit back and think like, damn, I did kill them kids. Not saying there's spirits that don't think that way.
Nah, that shit is deep though. You absolutely right, because that's what we trying to show niggas. So when you know, if a nigga come into your crib, I put it like, as fucked up as this shit may sound, as fucked up as this shit may sound, it's the fucking truth. A nigga coming to your crib, you better off letting that nigga wipe your family out and he live than you wiping this nigga out and you got to worry about. Because if you wipe the family out, all y'all in spirit. Y'all can move in spirit. If y'all good, Owaspi shows you that the righteous, when they cross over, is took by the guardian angels and put in places that is delightful, goddammit, better than this physical realm that we was in or whatever. It's delightful places in spirit for the righteous. So although it's horrendous, it's fucked up, boy, this nigga done killed the whole family, that's fucked up on the physical side, but on the spiritual side, them niggas may be in a paradise environment based off their lifestyle and righteousness when they was alive, although they fucking died like that and it was fucked up. You see what I'm saying? So,
but now you don't got to worry about y'all be less inclined to take a vengeful route. You might be as a father, but your family might calm you down or whatever. You know, there's different variables to it. Exactly. But that might cut the cycle. Y'all may not be as vengeful. You with your family. Y'all know y'all got done dirty. Y'all know justice is going to be served. Right. And y'all going to come into contact with the individual later in the afterlife. And you be more prone to forgive them or whatever and help them out if they need help. You know what I'm saying? You move on from that shit. But it's not like that with everybody. So.
Exactly.
You got to think you killing people and shit like that, and just the way some people kill, you know, you got to take into account how you kill somebody. Then someone try to kill you, you kill them. You know, sometimes people don't die instantly. Then you want to sit over their body and talk shit like, yeah, nigga, you try to kill me, blah blah. The rock your snot box. You sitting there, life is leaving your body, and you're hearing all this shit.
Right, exactly.
So that's a crossover with you in spirit. So then this nigga done killed me, done talked all this shit. All right, I got something for you. I know. I tell you this right now. I'll be honest. All right. If somebody kills me now in the state that I'm in, I may not be so forgiving.
Bro, let me tell you something. We realists, my nigga. We ain't no holier than thou niggas. Nigga, take me, hell yeah. I'm about to drag this nigga and take his ass into hell. I'm going to be redeemed later on down the line, yeah, but God damn it, right now, nigga, this is how we dealing with the situation. So that's the beautiful thing that the Owaspi shows. Regardless of how severe it gets, it's going to become a time where it's going to be redemption and deliverance. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? You know, it is what it is. That's what even the Owaspi says. You cannot obtain the Godhead if you don't know the extreme goods and the extremes of evil. Man must face evil on his own account. So even though we do this shit to each other and we go through all this, it's a lesson learned for us at the end of the day. Because this is going to be seasons and cycles that we're going to learn from this shit. You know what I mean? We got 3,000 years.
Well, I done said this before. Some cats look at me crazy. I said, listen, you killing me the way I think now. Like, I'm not like a bad person. But let's say you take me out something dirty. Boy, you better pray you don't have a family and kids, dog. I can tell you that right now. you better pray you don't have a family and kids. Let me tell you something. When your kids hear thumping tonight, then you gonna know shit's getting real. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the type of shit that can happen. You can cause.
Yeah. You remember in the book
of Wars
against
with your family and shit.
Yeah, in the book of Wars Against Jehovah, when it talked about the battle of 1,000 years, when they was striking at midnight, how them niggas was doing in the house. Once they get their hand on their mortal victim while they sleep, they start creating abnormal activities in the house, whirling stools and shit like that. But then you got the angels that could take poisonous gases and inoculate the lungs and kill mortals, the trained warrior angels. So it's levels to this shit, yo. The goddamn Louis be out here, trained warrior angel getting at niggas. And that's exactly what could be going on right now with all this genocidal killing. You got niggas getting murked over. And then you got Crips and Blood niggas that died in the 70s and 80s that's still around into the mischief, recruiting all these new souls on how to get back and how to do it. This shit run deep, yo.
Yeah, cats not ready for it, dog. That's why a lot of cats, it's hard for them to gravitate to a Owaspi, especially when it talks about things like that, because it gets pretty scary when you start thinking about it.
Them niggas are scared. I'm like, how the fuck y'all niggas supposed to be killers and grown men, soldiers, and you know what I mean? Warriors and shit. Y'all niggas scared to talk about death and life after death and the possibilities of this shit. Fuck out of here, my nigga. Y'all the niggas that's gonna have the hardest time when you die. Because you're gonna be struggling in the afterlife. Because you have a perception or a concept or no concept of how this shit's supposed to be. You know what I mean? So when you cross over, you probably ain't even gonna know you fucking dead. Because you think when you die, you're supposed to be asleep somewhere. Not knowing when you done crossed over, your ass is just as alive as you is now, nigga. Just as alive. But you in denial of that. That's why they didn't say, the Wasp say, nigga, even in warfare, you got those slain in war who are dead and don't know it as to earth life. I said, damn. These niggas on the battlefield, this nigga done got blown up by a goddamn Scud missile, and he's still moving in spirit, still thinking he alive, and this nigga body just got blown apart, and he don't even know.
Hey, yo, my bad. That's one of the things that I'm not saying that Waspy's wrong. I be trying to figure out, like, when it talks about just beyond the cats in war, I be trying to figure out, I talked to Nadim Ali about this. I was like, the part that gets to me the most is a lot of spirits, or at least at one point, when a lot of spirits crossed over, they didn't know that they were dead. And I'm like, how do you not know that you're dead? I'm trying to figure that out. Like, and the best thing I could think of is, like, you ever seen I Am Legend?
Yeah.
Remember that part?
Smith, right?
Yeah, with Will Smith. Remember that part where, like, he was by himself? Well, he was by himself damn near the whole movie, but, like, when he had to do his training, his mental training, when he had all those mannequins set up in the store.
Right.
And he was talking to him.
Right.
I started thinking like that. Is this some shit like that where, like, you should know that you're dead, but you in denial, like you're not dead. Like, some cats still go to work and shit like that. Like, how do you not know you're dead?
The crazy thing about it is that the way I'm seeing it is, like, when you instantly cross over, the world, the material, the spiritual material world is right there present. So that's a good question, because I say the same thing to myself. I'm like, how the fuck you don't know you dead? You see, especially in warfare, it's like, nigga, you know you hit up and shit, but I guess the fact that when they cross over in spirit, they see other angels in spirit moving and going. It's just like a baby being born. It's like you born into a world that's already in motion. So when you cross over in spirit, it's like, nigga, you spewed out the spirit. Spewed out your body. Now you in spirit, and you seeing shit going on, and you're like, oh, well, I can't be dead, because there go a nigga standing right there. There go people walking. You know, I gotta be, you know, because our concept of death is like, niggas is gonna just see, it's gonna be you a floating cloud or some shit, or you're gonna dissipate into nothingness. When you cross over, it's just as tangible and real as the physical world, but just in a faster vibrational frequency outside of visible light.
Yeah, bro. That's just crazy.
Yeah,
it is very deep.
That's a good question, though, because I raised that same question to myself. I'm like, and that's kind of scary, because you know, you got to pinch yourself every day. Like, all right, nigga, if Owaspy telling me, and Owaspy's not the only book. It's other mediums that got stories from deceased people who describe when they cross. It's this channel called Weird World on YouTube, and it's a medium like that channel spirits from people who have passed. Like, they had this one dude, he was in a war in 1920 on a ship, and he died at sea. And then he described how his transition was. He said he remembered being at sea, and then all of a sudden he found himself walking down the street. So it's a couple of them when they talk about when they transition, how it was at that moment. So I found that interesting. One dude fell off he got hit. He got hit by one of them, it was, you know, them trolleys back in the early 1900s. He got hit by one of them. So he got hit, but he's still moving. So he says, when he looked back, he said, why are these people crowded around? You know, somebody got hit. And when he went to go look, it was himself. He says, nonetheless, what struck me is that I'm looking at a man that looks strikingly like me. And couldn't find out it was him. He's seen his own body. He's seen that he died or whatever, but he was stuck, because he's like, how can this be? If I'm dead, I shouldn't be still alive. That's the shit.
Probably feels, you know what? It probably feels like a dream, bro. And that's another thing I was getting ready to tell you. I think you touched on this before. The dream state. That's when you crossing over to the spirit realm, right?
Yeah, we touched on that before, because the dream world is basically, I consider the dream world like the Matrix. Like we in the Matrix right now, and the dream world is the real reality, because that's the connection between the spiritual world. When you go to sleep, that's the deepest meditation. Like when people talk about meditating and all that, the deepest meditation we have is sleep. And meditation is our time to deal with spirit communion. So when the Owaski talk about we're supposed to be spirit communion daily, that's done through sleep, because we sleep daily, and sleep is during the time where our spirit is able to come out this shell for a minute and tap into the spiritual world. And when we do tap in, we have dreams. And I look at that as like in the Matrix, when you got the simulated room, the construct, when they was in the construct, that white room, and then from this white room, they could upload any program and be in the beach. They could be on top of a building, and that's when they did the jump. So dreams are like subjective realities that are, done by these high advanced angels. Because even in the Owaski says angels will inspire mortals to dreams, and then in the Book of Fragapati, it shows you how they create subjective realities to make to make angels restore themselves of past lives, so they could familiarize themselves, whatever. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm about to put the whole chat and everybody watching on game right now. You know, when you have dreams, right? Dreams that you can remember, the more lucid kind. Right. It don't matter whatever's going on, something's going on, or you're witnessing something. You ever had dreams like there's times where there's people in your dream that you recognize in your waking life, and this is anybody, this is to you, Sayla, and anybody in the chat. You ever had a dream where like you're doing something or you're witnessing something go down in your dream, whatever it might be, but there's individuals in your dream that you know in your dream, but you don't know in real life? They're just there in your dream, like witnessing with you.
Damn, yeah. That's
So if anybody's wondering who those are, your angels. That's who those are. That's why you can't see them like that. And you can't remember them. Have you ever noticed when you try to go back and remember them, you can never really see their faces like that? You just see individuals there standing with you, witnessing whatever it is that you're witnessing. Those are your angels in your dream. That's why you don't recognize them.
That's deep.
They're not supposed to reveal themselves to you.
That's a good one right there. That's deep, because I have had dreams where, like, I be having all type of dreams. I ain't gonna sit there and act like, you know what I mean? But I have dreams. Sometimes I have a dream like I got ops. Like I'm in there and this niggas, like when they see me, it's on sight. I'm like, huh? I'm like, damn, I got some drudges in this motherfucker already? Niggas trying to get at me? And I'm running this shit like that. I done had them type of dreams where I've been in the hood and niggas like, oh, this nigga ain't supposed to be here. Look, this nigga done, he wanted. It's just like when you go to these big bright cities like New York and you looking at the lights and you looking at the buildings and niggas who front the city like, oh, this nigga ain't from out here. Look, he ain't from out here. We got us one. If they decide they want to scheme, it was just like that. When I tapped in some of these hood spiritual worlds and shit like that. But then I got the other ones where I remember I had this one, I was on a block chilling like with my back, and it was people on this side and people on this side, and they was conversating. Like two niggas conversating here, two people conversating here, and I'm in the middle, and I'm trying to find my way within the conversation. But it's like niggas was ignoring me. And there was one guy, one white guy, he walked up, he looked like the nigga from Training Day, kind of like that, with a tattoo on his neck type shit. The nigga walked up like this and walked and turned right in front of me, and the nigga put his hand right here and started doing this, like the nigga tickled my neck. And I was like, and I woke up out the fucking dream. And I was like, the nigga came and did that shit to say, like, nigga, you ain't supposed to be here, nigga. Let me get you up out of here. Boom. So it'll be little encounters. I start putting two and two together, like, yo, you know what I mean? What the fuck this shit about?
And I think
I said, this shit is hot science, man. A lot of, niggas think this shit pseudo. Some niggas think this shit fairy tale, but them niggas ain't even fucking dealing with.
Let me touch on that pseudo. Let me touch on that pseudo shit real quick, because a lot of cats get that misconstrued what being pseudo is. To be pseudo, the definition of pseudo is to be disingenuous and to be spurious or a sham. So basically, if you're disingenuous, you're pseudo. If you're providing evidence that's fake, that's pseudo. But you have to prove that it's fake. Now, pseudo has a negative connotation for that reason. Because now you're saying somebody's pseudo is because you don't agree with them, or they might be getting into something more spiritual than you. But the thing is, science and religion were one and the same, went hand in hand up until the middle of the 19th century, up until Darwin. That's when that's when religion and science separated. That's why you have mainstream academia now, the orthodoxy, and they're the ones that basically they say what's pseudo, what's not, and they dictate what's accepted and what's not accepted. They're the ones that put in, they dictate what's put in the universities and shit like that, and everything else is considered alternative. So instead of saying pseudo, you need to say alternative academia or scholarship or whatever, because it's an alternative to the current paradigm, the current form of orthodoxy. Orthodoxy is what's accepted. Heresy is what's not accepted. You know what I'm saying? But you need heretics, because heretics are going to question things. And when you question things, it leads to research. And when you find, when you dig, you're going to find shit. You know what I'm saying? So they just don't want to look at certain things. They're reductionist materialists. But what a lot of people don't understand about Darwin is that when he came up with his theory of evolution through natural selection, he didn't do that alone. He did it independently. He did the research, but he was bullshitting on publishing his material. So there was another guy named Wallace who also did his independent research. He knew that Darwin had research into that field, but he did his own independent research, and he found independently his evidence for natural selection. Now, we know the OWASP doesn't posit evolution through natural selection. It does posit evolution, but not through natural selection. But Wallace was getting ready to publish it. He sent a letter to Darwin, about, because he knew Darwin was researching the same thing, and basically he was letting him know, like, look, I confirm what you've been looking into. So he's like, I'm getting ready to, go to the board of whatever to go present this or what have you. And when Darwin read that shit, he was like, oh, because back then he went to his colleagues and consulted with them. And the reason why he did that is because back then, and pretty much it still is today, when you're the one that comes up with the theory first, you get your name stamped on it. It's an ego thing.
Right.
So exactly. Because he was bullshitting on his book, he didn't want Wallace to go out there and put it out and get his name stamped on it and have it the Wallace theory of evolution. So his boys told him, his colleagues said, well, you need to go to Wallace, obviously you need to be respectable and go to him and see if y'all can present it together. And when y'all present it together, you both get your name stamped on it. So originally the theory of evolution was of natural selection. It was called the Darwin-Wallace theory of evolution through natural selection. But I only bring that up because of this, right? Both of them were scientific. Both came up with the theory of evolution through natural selection. The main difference between Darwin and Wallace was this. Darwin was a materialist. Wallace was a spiritualist. See, Wallace believed in spirituality. He went to seances or whatever, and he went and did his research. So he researched parapsychology. And it's been researched for decades since that time. But mainstream academia doesn't want to accept it. So they label that pseudo, but it's not, because it's a real thing. Automatic writing, seances, trances, hypnosis, and things of that nature. Auto clairvoyance.
Exactly.
All those things. That's all under parapsychology. It's a real field. There's under study. It's just they don't accept it, and the reason they don't accept it is because they don't want to be connected to biblical myths and things of religious, because they're materialists. At the end of the day, they're affected under the cycle that Baal and them were under. So you're seeing the Osirian religion and reality being manifested today more than ever.
Exactly. Big facts. Yep. The Osirian mentality is still in full effect today. That's what the whole Sadat and them boys about. You know what I mean? Not taking no shots, but just saying, like, a lot of them don't deal with spirituality in the sense of life after death. I done heard them like nobody knows, and this. Of course, we can always say nobody knows, but when you have consistent cases and evidence of the same thing remotely apart from people who don't know each other, and it's consistent with people coming back from the dead or communicating through a medium, and they're verifying how it is or whatever, it's like you just in denial of the facts. Even with this picture, like I got up on the screen. You remember this picture, right? You remember this, right?
Yeah, I think I seen the Bolton Hootie brought that up.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, that's where I got it from. That's where I got it from him. And that's when he was living.
We don't
in
get
Atlanta.
along too much, but
Got you. That's when he was living in Atlanta out here in Stone Mountain, where I'm at right now. He caught a picture on a joint. I mean, a spirit on a joint. You know what I mean? This is an authentic picture, though. Nobody in the world got this shit but then him and whoever else he gave it to. And then my man, he caught this picture right here. This is a picture when My man holding it, that's Big Sonny Gallo from Atlanta's Ugly. Salute to the God. That's his uncle, I mean his step pops was into the film industry, and he was coming back from a James Bond. They was doing a James Brown tribute, but he was coming from New Mexico. He was in a cab, and they was riding, and the cab driver stopped and was looking out from the windshield, looking up. And the cab, and then his step pop was like, like, what you looking at? And then when they stepped out, they seen a line of UFOs in the air. But by the time when he seen it, it was metallic still. He said they put a cloud around the ships, and when he pulled out his phone, his camera, he snapped the shots. And then this is what he got. This is what he gave him, because he got the pictures where you could see the ships with the metallic shape without the clouds. But he kept that for himself, but he gave him these pictures right here. And then he says when the ship stationed, because they was moving in a singular order coming across, he said New Mexico. He said it was coming across like from Mexico, New Mexico coming in towards America. You know what I mean? He described that. And then he said when they stationed to where they were supposed to be, it looked like this here. It looked like big rarefied clouds. That's them same ships, but when they stationed, it looked like regular clouds. So that's what made me start thinking about the Bible when it talks about when the Israelites left Egypt, it was a cloud that followed them by day and a pillar of fire by night or whatever. It made me think about that. But this nigga these are authentic pictures. He was showing me because we were talking about these things. He was like, yo, I got something to show you. And he pulled out the pictures. He said, my step pops got the authentic where you could see the actual spaceship, the metallic shape itself. But he said he gave him these. You know what I mean? So I was like, damn, okay. So you got two pictures that's, authentic. You ain't pulling this shit up off the internet. Niggas gave me this shit. Hand delivered or whatever. So yeah, man, this shit run deep, yo.
What was the title of your lesson?
Can we trust the God of the Bible?
Yeah, because somebody on here said the answer to the title of the lesson is no answer. Prince Yehuda Levi Amakai ben Yisrael.
Oh yeah. He's one of the faithist brothers. OWASP team.
Oh, he reads a WASP?
Yeah. He's part of the OWASP team.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was like a jab or something like that. Like you.
Oh no. Yeah. Because since we've been going hard at the Bible, niggas be taking their shots, talking their shit. Because we've been going so hard exposing this biblical God and showing like, damn, this nigga really on some fuck shit. You know what I mean? Now, don't get me wrong. There's some verses where, like how we was reading Isaiah when it was talking about the Creator being one or whatever, and then you got Amos 5 and 25 and 6. I think you had brought that out back in the day when we were talking about the tabernacles of Moloch. They bore the tabernacles of Moloch 40 years in the wilderness. So, let me pull up that verse real quick. I ain't gonna hold you up. Somebody get off in a minute too and shit.
Mm.
But when you look at Amos, right?
Well, that tabernacle, that tabernacle itself is the one that was in the wilderness, the tent. That's Egyptian in origin. The tabernacle in general. So is the ark. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
You have verses in the prophets like Jeremiah, what have you, that tell you that, yo, don't listen to these lying words. Says this is the house of the Lord, this is the house of the Lord, this is the house of the Lord. So right there it's telling you like, and where the Most High made everything, where can you build him a house with your hands? You know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't dwell in the temple. He never ordained for that temple to stand. Exactly. That was from other deities. When you read OWASP, then you start seeing why that was erected and why you have an Ark of the Covenant that's modeled after the Egyptian Ark or whatever. Exactly. And you got these Egyptian priests, which are these Levites or whatever, pushing that shit. I mean, it's already there.
Exactly. Even in the OWASP, in the book of the Ezra, the base of the Ezra Bible show you that was already there in Egypt. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. And you look at the tabernacle, I was getting ready to say, I think it resembles the war tent of Ramses, one of the Ramses pharaohs, Ramses II or what have you. His war tent, if you look it up, you can look it up right now if you want. You look at the war tent, it looks exactly like the tabernacle.
War tent of Egypt?
Yeah, war tent of Ramses, or just look up Egyptian war tents. It's pretty much set up the same way, which gives more credence that the Levites were probably Egyptian priests.
Yeah, because they even got pictures of the Yup, this look like the King Solomon's temple.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's the corruption start with them. That's what most people don't realize. It starts with the priesthood.
Right, exactly.
It's always started with priesthoods.
I know they got one where the Egyptians is like carrying. They got the pictures where like they carrying like how they be carrying the Ark of the Covenant. I know they got some pictures where like they carrying the chessboard and shit. I have to find that shit on another note, but yeah, yo, that shit crazy, yo. Oh, I thought I had pulled it up. I thought I shared the screen and shit.
Yeah, man, Egyptian priests. That's all they are. Code of animal sacrifice. Straight out of Egypt, and even further with that too. You look at if you know critical biblical scholarship to a degree, you know the documentary hypothesis. You would understand that the only sources that really talk about laws for the foreigner are all Levite in origin.
Right.
And Levi in Hebrew means to bind, like to bind, to hang on.
Like that nigga foot was bound and shit.
Bound, yeah, because it tells you that his right hand and his right foot, the fingers and toes were together.
Yeah, that nigga with the phone and shit.
Yeah, so Levi, he was bound.
Yeah.
But then Levi, supposedly, the way the Awasfi, you read it, it makes it seem like he's Phoenician. He's of the same ethnic group as the Faithists in Egypt, but he's not of the same cult. Something with the generational, the births through the Ahen women or what have you.
Yeah, right.
Which I don't want to get too deep into because we read that in the Bible to certain degrees. The second and third generation or what have you. You read that too in Awaspi. So something with that, he couldn't have been a Faithist by birth or what have you. But he ended up.
It said he was not eligible to be a Faithist, so he took. Was it an Egyptian wife or some shit like that? They said or some shit.
Yeah,
and he started a new line called. Matter of fact, shit, we can pull that shit up real quick. Yeah, because that was real interesting when I first read that shit. I was like, damn, okay.
But I think it says that Kohath wasn't a Faithist, but he ended up becoming one through the laws of Anubai. Because that's what it took. If you remember the laws of Anubai, that's what it takes for you to be a Faithist.
Yeah, that shit is heavy too. I was like, damn, these niggas ain't playing. So whoever built them pyramids, man, that's why it's conflicting because the theory was the Israelites built the pyramids, but we know they ain't built the pyramids. But then when you look at the Awaspi, it talks about the Faithists. It says even the kings had to pay homage to the sons and daughters of the Faithists because them niggas knew the fifth degree. Them niggas knew how to build the temples and the pyramids.
Herodotus gives some credence to that because I think it's Herodotus, right? That he wrote about the Egyptians, I have you. I think he wrote somewhere where he heard through the Egyptians that Khufu got his knowledge, or it wasn't Khufu that built the pyramids. It was actually a sheep herder, a Levantine bull.
Yeah, because even in the Awaspi, it shows you that according to the way that shit said, the Egyptians were Phoenician. Because when the king Lutzag, had the famine, they migrated into what is known as Egypt. Because they call it the seer Egypt, and the seer Egypt sent the seer into a fertile land, which is now known as Egypt. And he said within like 5-6 years, I forget how many years, that the whole city was populated and full already. Because a lot of people say Egypt just popped out of nowhere. That civilization just popped up out, it sprang up overnight type shit. And then even when you look at the Narmer palette, Narmer is fighting with the people who had to be occupying that area already. Because he was.
My bad, real quick, because I remember we talked about this before when we were talking about the dating, on the same topic. When the Shepherd Kings came into Egypt, right? Because I know that story you're talking about. I was just recently reading that because that shit always mind boggles me when I read it. Because I be trying to figure out the date because the way that chapter starts off, it tells you that it starts off in the past and it makes its way forward. So basically, after, like what you said, the Persians came in, established Egypt, and then you had Hyksos and all of them. They made it,
Right.
What was it? Independent, unified and independent. We have all
Right.
that. But when the shepherd kings came into Egypt, and it said that the faithless, the ones that follow Abraham, that were in sympathy with Abraham or what have you, went in there. It says that they came in the 700th year of the reign of Anu-Hassaj.
Right.
So I'm trying to figure out when did Anu-Hassaj start reigning?
When did he start raining?
Yeah, what date?
Well, I put this is how I slightly measure it. It's not an actual like I could pinpoint a date, but the way I pinpoint it is it's a verse in the Owaspi in the Book of Wars Against Jehovah where it states the first 200 years they upheld peace. So that'll be from 3953 BC to 3753 BC, and it is after that time when Anu-Hassaj rose up. So anytime after 37, maybe 36, 35, because definitely his influence was impacted during the time of Narmer. We know that. That's
so during that 200 years of peace, you think that's when he was being the wandering spirit? He was going to and fro on the earth?
You know what? You're absolutely right.
Remember, he was under Satus. He was under Ahura.
Exactly. He was delivered out of hell or once, and then you know what I mean. He was trying to do whatever he did, but yeah, he was back with exactly during the Book of Divinity. He comes from the 22nd arc cycle. He coming from there.
That's where he learned all his shit from.
Exactly.
He learned well from Ahura. You know what I'm saying? He took it to the next level. To where Ahura had to visit his ass and tell him like, "Yo, bro, you know how I felt, dog, and you gonna try to do the same shit? Come on, dog." Like, you remember how Ahura came to him? He said, "All due respect, bro. All due respect." No, they came at Ahura like this. They were like, "All due respect, but yo, you can't even make the winds move, dog." You know what I'm saying? When at the wave of your wrist.
Right. And it's crazy because it was like, yo, when you read the story of Cetus Ahura, you like, damn, he caught hell. So when I seen him talking to Anu-Hassaj, I'm like, all right, my nigga, this nigga went through it. At least listen to this nigga. He's a nigga that know, you know what I mean? Anu-Hassaj still ain't listen to that nigga, you know what I mean?
Because Anu-Hassaj was jealous of him because he was redeemed.
He ain't had no faith that he was going to lift the heavenly kingdom, that lift the plateau to where it was going to be at.
He was jealous of him. He hated on him. That's why he didn't want to listen to him. And then
so Anu-Hassaj's been around. Anu-Hassaj's been around. He been around. So if the 23rd arc cycle is 3953, Anu-Hassaj's been around 5th, 6th millennium BC, probably floating around 7th millennium BC, damn near the fucking middle Stone Age and shit.
Yeah, probably.
Niggas is lingering from the middle Stone Age till now. Ain't this some shit?
Yep. That's how it be, bro. They've been around. A lot of them guys, just the Waspy doesn't get that detail. Like I said, as all everything is it's a summary. It's a summary of what's in the unseen realms or whatever in the libraries or whatever. They just summarized some shit, put it together in the Waspy, and then gave it to transmitted it to you, bro.
I found this article because this is one sister, she be going hard, so we gather a lot of data. But I found this one article where it says the original Owaspi was 4,000 pages. I could share with you that article when I go back. You remember What's in Pain? You remember that dude?
Who was it?
What's in Pain? You remember What's in Pain?
Yeah, I remember him. I had a
yeah, he be he cool now. We talking shit, but he be shooting me a whole bunch of articles and references from them time periods, and and I was reading one of them and it said like the portfolio was originally 4,000 and some change. I was like, huh? I'm like, let me find out. I'm like 4,000. That'll accommodate the fucking synopsis of 16 cycles if that was the case, or something. But that's just that's just a theory. I just that's just one reference. So I'm not putting my whole heart into it as to say that's actual fact, but it was just interesting that they said that.
When you going back on Sinetta? I haven't seen you, or I haven't heard them name drop you on there. I see Cosmo and Cal be on there every so often, but
because my approach to Sinetta was the Battle of the Holy Books with Malachi Mack could be like, this is the House of Consciousness, so we got these Bible thumpers, so let's come up with a title and let's see which book can produce more clarity based off the title or the subject matter. So I was supposed to go at it with Tazariot. Them niggas up in their egos and up in their feelings, and You know what I mean? He ran. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's the top hitter. Who else I'm gonna fuck with after that? You know what I mean? It's like that's the top 10. I'm a top 10 nigga. They just don't know it. You know what I mean? That's why Sarnetta wanted to match me up with the nigga. He's like, yo, I got somebody that I think that'll give you some work. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And then JJ and Cosmon hopped on JJ ass. So him and JJ was going back and forth, and they were supposed to do it. And then, you know, that didn't work out. And then I was like, nigga, you know, Black Jesus was there. You know, he coming up with excuses. And so all these niggas was coming up with excuses instead of just saying, all right, this is going to be the topic. Is Jehovah of the Bible versus Jehovah of the Owaspi? Which one is the real creator? Something like that. And then you just pull chapter and verse, proving the argument. And that was the whole approach for me going on stuff. Because I ain't the nigga to be sitting up there just gossiping. And it's cool. I like to build, and ain't nothing wrong with that. But I'm here for the fucking meat of this shit. We supposed to be talking about God Almighty, God of the universe, who creates sun, moon, and stars. So I feel that that's crucial. Because your whole existence and your destiny of your life and your concept of life after death is all based off this God. And this is the same God who's supposed to create sun, moon, and stars, but then at the same time, he's instigating murdering his own creation, throwing them in the lake of fire to a burn for eternity and shit like that. So this shit got to be addressed. You know what I mean? So we got the Owaspi, we got other holy books that's supposed to be notified from God. Put all that shit on the table. It's called Battle of the Holy Books. Put the Quran up, nigga. We tell you, put the Egyptian literature up. Anything that's supposed to be professed from a higher source, we challenging that shit. We challenge ourselves. You know how we do. We always challenge. That's how we sharpen our swords. Whether we get mad at each other or not, we still sharpen an iron. So that was the approach of Sarnetta. So, you know, and you know, I was on Killer Priest too, but that was the approach of Sarnetta. So if I do go back, it's just to re-emphasize that argument, like, yo, who want to take a debate, man? This is Battle of the Holy Books. This our approach. But when we do go up there, when Cosmo go up there, them niggas are trying to be like, why Sarnetta, why you letting them on with that book? Why? I said, how biased is that, my nigga? And Sarnetta be like, yo, the same way we letting you on with that Bible. So when I hear niggas talk like that, man, them niggas is not even ready, my nigga. Because if we get in a ring with a nigga with a monster like that, nigga, first ring knockout, it's gonna be deadly, and it's gonna be a whole bunch of fussing and arguing and a whole bunch of bullshit because they don't know how to deal with this shit.
Yeah, that's what I would. Them cats, I don't even with JJ and all them. I don't even need a Owaspi to deal with them. I just go straight critical biblical scholarship with their ass and just take care of their ass easy. And then just finish it off with the Owaspi. You know what I'm saying? Like, and
you said, we don't even need to bring up the Owaspi because the Bible got so much contradiction and inconsistencies. We can just beat them up with that alone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that shit, I don't even gotta speak that to them, you know, when I go on there. But I was gonna try to get on Sunday. Like he got rid of that video, mind you, the one that I was on. You talking about the one where my face was on there?
When I seen you on there, I was like, oh shit, this nigga Louis about to step it up. So I was glad because I'm like, all right, nigga, there's a Battle of the Holy Books about to go down because I know you still repping Owaspi, and I'm like, if a nigga challenge you, I'm sure you're gonna take that debate. You know what I mean? So it ain't done yet. It just I just strategically approach situations. I just don't jump in shit headlong. And I just don't jump on shit just to be on it. But I like when Cosmo Cal jump on there because he's keeping our face relevant as far as, you know, they call it the Owaspi boys or whatever, but he's still there, you know what I mean? So that's good. Mm-hmm. But my shit is more strategically like, all right, nigga, if I come on there, I'm coming on there with a, like, what's up, nigga? Who you going to get to debate this information? I already did the presentation about creation on there, showing creator, and the Sarnetta was in agreements to all the shit that I've presented. He was like, yo, he said, man, that Owaspi creation story, how things create sound way better than the Bible creations. He had said that. And that's what niggas started getting upset because niggas ain't like that. They said, oh, he's starting to like, nah, he just going based off the common sense. I showed you illustration demonstrating creation that the Owaspi is showing you. Through the whirlwind is the manner of my created worlds. And we showed you the whirlwind in nature. We showed you how the vortex in galaxies are vortices. We showed you numerous pictures of galaxies with central suns, just like the Owaspi described. So it's like we showing you this shit in real time. And then not only that, it throws out the Big Bang Theory. Because the Owaspi is saying that vortices create worlds. So the Big Bang is really the vortex in reality, because only thing that creates worlds and galaxies is vortices. And we have pictures to prove it. Them satellites and telescopes they got or whatever to show the galaxies, and they can zoom in and they see in the swirl. Some niggas, oh, that's CGI. Well, fuck it. If it's CGI, nigga, look at the hurricane and the tornado. It's the same concept. Spiraling worlds or spiraling gases.
You can kill the Big Bang, bro. You can kill the Big Bang theory through the singularity. Because if you look at the singularity, it's supposed to be a timeless, spaceless point or a point of energy. You dig what I'm saying? But now, see, it's timeless and it's spaceless. So to say that at some point a bang happened, you're taking something that's timeless and spaceless and putting it within the confines of space and time.
Exactly. And then you're localizing it.
Exactly. And then you're localizing it because if this is supposed to be how everything created, that got to encompass all. When you look at pictures of the Big Bang, nigga, it's space surrounding it. It's supposed to encompass all. So that's why they label that shit theory, because that shit ain't even it don't even show up in nature in creation. There is no example of it. That's why I like the Owaspy and the way it describes how creation is, and it gives you an example in nature. It gives you an example over land and water. It gives you an example in the atmosphere and in the galaxies. One consistent order. So I'm like, man, if y'all niggas can't see that shit, I don't know what to tell you, bro. It's like, yeah, y'all niggas gonna be lost for a long season.
You seen when Minister Inky and them were on there talking about God is light?
Yeah, yeah. And see, they concept of God is off too, because God is a deity. God is a goddamn a man. So what they're really trying to describe is vortexian energy generating light. I don't know. I've seen some of that shit, but them niggas sometimes, man, they get so caught up in the scientifical, they can't relate it in simple means of nature. Just demonstrate it in nature. Because if you could demonstrate it in nature, that's objective, and that objective knowledge always wins every time. Because I can just point to it. There you go. That's undeniable.
Yeah, that shit was entertaining to me though. When Mr. Inky and them, he had that debate with Q Butter and shit like that. That shit was pretty. I like that. That was a breath of fresh air for me. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like,
yeah, that shit was like, I was like, okay.
It was like the Twilight Zone, bro.
Q Butter was on point though. Q Butter was on. Who?
No, Minister Inky. You talking about the dark skin one was Minister Inky. Q Butter was
whoever brought out the electromagnetic spectrum. One of them niggas brought out the electromagnetic spectrum. They brought out. And see, that's how they got to deal. You got to bring out things that is provable. So the electromagnetic spectrum, that's the vibrational frequency of everything in the creation, seen and unseen. That's the actual fact.
Mm-hmm.
Next, besides that, is the periodic table of elements, which is the physical makeup of everything seen and unseen. So with those two elements right there, we could demonstrate spirituality, because spirituality is nothing but describing vibration, things within vibrational frequencies that's out of visible light. So we live within 400 to 700 nanometers. That's our bandwidth. That's what we can see. Outside of that bandwidth would be considered unseen. But outside of that bandwidth, in that frequency, there is existence going on just as real as this existence.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at the electromagnetic spectrum, which is the bandwidth of visible light and the bandwidth of the unseen light, that which exists in those unseen realms, like ultraviolet, gamma ray, those bandwidth, there is existence in those bandwidth just as our existence here. Those are the answers. Those are where the spirits exist. When we die, we either going to be ingrided in one of the bandwidths, either the infrared on the slower vibrational frequency, if we're more on the drudger level, or if our spiritual growth is slower, when we cross over, we're going to be in the bandwidth of the infrared. The TV and the radio frequency. Those are long vibrational frequencies, are slower. But if we're more higher up on a spiritual echelon, when we cross over in spirit, we're going to be more up in the lighter realm, the ultraviolet rays, the ultraviolet. Then you got the gamma rays. Those are high vibrational frequencies outside of visible light that the spirit gets in grids in. That's the spiritual science, because we're still dealing with the electromagnetic spectrum, but we're dealing with the unseen aspect of it. High vibrational frequency outside of visible light. And then the particles. Now go ahead, King.
My bad. I said, and the frequencies is motion, and motion is the voice of the creator.
Exactly. And then, now go ahead.
I was going to ask you, when was the electromagnetic spectrum discovered, if you know?
Shit, we can pull it up though. I'm not sure.
It was discovered in 1887. Owaspy was published in 1882.
See that? Owaspy is undefeated again. in that department to show like vortexian current is the electromagnetic spectrum.
I was gonna get on when they were debating that. I was gonna get on there because people was able to get on. I was gonna get on there and say that, but
you need a nigga like you need to get you need to present you need to have a presentation, because when you was on there, they wasn't hearing you out. They wasn't really letting you get, you know what I mean, letting you rock out like that. And that was, you know, and it depends on the topic sometimes, but on certain topics, if them niggas let you rock out, yeah, you can put a lot of them niggas in the fucking.
No, they let me rock out on the topic we're talking about. The topic that we're talking about is stupid. They were talking about like, well, I don't even know if that was a topic. It was at the time. Well, I don't know if that was the title of the video, but whenever I got on, they were talking about, can white people use the N-word, bro? That's what they were talking about. And I
that was like, oh man.
And then I had that wild ass white boy got on there and started saying wild shit, right? But I got on there basically like, I only got on there because like I got what they were arguing about. But my whole thing was like, I don't like how selective y'all be with certain things. You know what I mean? Like, so
that's real though. That's real shit.
That's why I went in there. I was like, look, I didn't. How did all this shit pop off? Because y'all talking about white people this and this, that, and the third. I'm like, well, how did all that pop off? How'd y'all get over here as slaves? And that's what, you know, how that popped off. And Ngozi was on there. That's how me and Ngozi. Now I talked to Ngozi a little bit.
Ngozi, he be going in on that biology.
Yeah, I fuck with Ngozi, of course.
Yeah, when it comes to them haplogroups, my nigga, that's why I said, man, it's like you got to be.
I made Ngozi hop back on, bro. He hopped back on because I was on there.
Yeah, man, he well-rounded. You got to be well-rounded in this shit. So you got to know the genetic, the haplogroups, and all that shit. You know what I mean? You got to know all that shit. At least have a basis understanding. Because when I got on the haplogroups, you know what I mean? That, you know, that shows like, all right, nigga, it's one lineage, it's one Y chromosome gene, regardless of what nationality you are, and that's what Ngozi be showing. He's like, nigga, we all connected in this motherfucker.
Yeah, they don't be wanting to hear Ngozi though when they be talking about Egypt or whatever. Man, that's Chief X be killing them. You ever seen Chief X, bro?
Who that?
Chief X. You ever seen Chief X?
Chief X. Is that the dude from with the gold tooth with be wearing the shades with the hat? I mean, with the I don't know.
Nah, Chief X. He an old head, but he stay out in Cali.
I think I heard that name before. I think I see he be on Sonetta sometimes or something like that. I don't know how he looking like that, but
yeah, well,
he heard that nigga before.
He an old head or whatever, you know what I mean? I think he like 53, he just turned 53 or whatever. But now he be coming at the conscious community, though. He just really be trying to tell them that ancient Egyptians weren't like Negroidal. So they were melanated and shit like that, but he be trying to say the black community got it to where like, or the conscious community, I should say, be trying to say that the ancient Egyptians were like Black Americans and shit like that. And he be trying to tell them no. So he makes the argument that North Africa was never like Black Africa the way that the conscious community has it. So that's really where their contention lies. And the reason why he even does that is because he feels that, you know, everybody in the slave trade comes from West Africa, and West Africa got a lot to give, but at the cats in Sinetta, you don't really hear them talking about Ghana and all that. They always talk about Egypt.
They now starting to talk about West Africa, like Rob Bourne and a couple others. They going digging into West African history and early American history now and shit.
And that's in large part probably because of Chief, you know what I'm saying? Because he was part of that kind of community around like Dr. Ben and shit like that. He said in the 90s and shit. You know what I mean? When you were doing your studies and shit like that, even though although he's older. So that's his main gripe with the conscious community, and they be blackballing him and shit like that. They don't be wanting him to
so
get
he
on.
basically his argument is that the Egyptians wasn't niggas like us.
Yeah, he tries to try saying that the people that are still in Egypt today is basically the people that was there back then. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's it. He should say that Africa is a continent, which it is, and you have a lot of diversity, but North Africans, a lot of Horners and shit like that.
But even when you read, like when I was studying the Egyptian literature, some of the texts, the Nubians was born with the Egyptians. If them niggas was goddamn brothers and shit like that, what the fuck them niggas got to hate for each other like that? So,
and that Chief X be bringing that up too. He be bringing up pictures, how they depict them, and you know when the Egyptians picture Nubians, you can tell they Nubian.
My theory is them niggas is Asiatics. You see what I'm saying? And then the Neo-Waspi even shows that them niggas is Asiatics or Phoenician, still in that region. You know what I mean?
Well, if you look at their myth, bro, if you look at the Turin Kings list, it tells you the Shemzu Hor were there in pre-dynastic Egypt. The Shemzu Hor. Right. Shem, Sem, those of Shem that follow Horus, the light, Hor, or The light. Who was the light? Or
And then
Ma?
not only that, to add on top of that, you had Mesopotamian influence in pre-dynastic Egypt. You got certain cylinder seals that you find in Egypt that comes from Mesopotamia, and we're talking pre-dynastic times. So it shows you that there was the whole Persian, because Mesopotamia that still be Persia all the way up into goddamn near Canaan and shit. That migration of people who we call Mesopotamia, the lofty niggas with the beard, the shepherd kings, them niggas was up in fucking pre-dynastic Egypt.
Yeah. And even with agriculture and the domestication of animals, they had it over there in Asia. They tried saying independently agriculture developed in Africa around 5,000 BCE. But over there in Mesopotamia, it was around like 10,000, 11,000 BCE, I think. Now, I can agree to the fact that everywhere independently developed agriculture on the strength that Ions were there. When you take into account the Owaspy.
Yeah, facts.
You know what I'm saying? So I could believe that. But it tells you in the Owaspy too that it was those that were in the land of goats that were the favored. The Persians were favored by, you know, God at that time. Not so much the creator, but God, the ambassador, or whatever. So those were the people that were highest in the knowledge with magic and astronomy and things of that nature. It tells you that super kings knew the most. They were the ones that were the well versed in all that. So
it's crazy because that time period would have fell within like because you know when you read the first Osiris in the lower book, if that's the Lord's fifth book, if I'm not mistaken, it said that the greatest keepers of the Osiris system was Japheth, Persia, and among them the Shepherd kings. By the time, say it again.
The Indo-Aryans, the Indo-Europeans. That's basically what they're trying to tell you. Indo-Aryan.
So they're letting you know that the knowledge was in Persia prior to Egypt. Now, when you look at that time period, there's two highlight civilizations going back 10,000, 12,000 years ago. You got the Harappa, the Harappa the Harappa Indus Valley civilization. That goes back like 12,000 years. And then you got the other one in Turkey. What's the shit called? It's the observatory. Göbekli Tepe.
Yep, Göbekli Tepe. Yep.
That goes back 12,000 years. And that fits the exact same time period of Osiris the First. So we have evidence of historical artifacts going back to 12,000 years. One is Göbekli, whatever, and that's an observatory. And on Osiris, his influence was astronomy and observatory. So we have that, and that's in Turkey. You see what I'm saying?
That's in southeast Turkey, and that is in Sanli Urfa, around the city. I think the city of Edessa is there. And I seen Edessa to be, because remember in the Owaspy tells you that Abraham was from a place called Hessa.
Right.
And the closest I could find that Hessa is Edessa. So Abraham had to have been from southeast Turkey. He had to have been from upper Mesopotamia, not southern Mesopotamia, northern Mesopotamia.
Right.
Because Haran is right there.
Yup.
And Göbekli Tepe. Remember, it tells you he was.
It's funny you say that, bro, because one of the sisters, there's a sister in our group called Jamia. I'm going to have to add you. It's a sister named Jamia, and she raised that question. She says, in the Owaspy is north-south and the south-north. So now if we flip that from Abraham being in the south to the north, it's an easier migration coming into Canaan, just coming down right there anyway.
Exactly, because you have the city, you have Nahor, and you have Haran. Haran is right there. Haran is not far from Edessa.
Right.
And Edessa is a Muslim country, and they actually have a tradition of Abraham coming in contact with Nimrod, and Nimrod throwing him into like a lake or a river of fire. And the tradition states an angel, Gabriel, or somebody came and turned the burning logs into fish, and that's why that river has fish there or whatever. So there's actual tradition of Abraham there, saying that Nimrod ruled there or whatever. That's where he came into contact with Abraham. So, but if you look over at Sumer, I don't see no traditions of Abraham.
And you know, it makes sense because even in the not the Armada letters, the what's that? The Ebla tablets. which is in Syria, they have mention of Abraham and some of the 5 cities of Sodom and Gomorrah in the Ebla tablets, and that's written in cuneiform. Like I tell niggas, I said, bro, if you want to look for Abraham, then you got to look for that nigga in the cuneiform, because the region where he's from is the cuneiform language being spoken, or that system of writing or communication, I should say, in comparison to how niggas thinking. Well, niggas, a lot of these Hebrew Israelites ain't even never pondered that. They never pondered what language Abraham spoke. Oh, Hebrew. No, that nigga wasn't. The way he was from, ain't no Hebrew there. It's cuneiform.
Yeah, he might have been Indo-Aryan. Who knows? I don't know. I think that Waspi says he was from Shem, right? Or he was from the host of Parsi.
Right. You know
Yeah.
about the Polyanists of Tyana?
Yeah, you mentioned this earlier. I've heard of him before.
Now, when you look at the Polyanists of Tyana, he resembles the description that the Owaspi gives of Joshua. He ain't no nigga.
Yeah, well,
and Polyanists of Tyana was from I think he was from like southern Turkey, somewhere over there. I forget Tyana, but I don't know if that's Turkey or not, but
cats start getting sketchy with the phenotypes. They don't like getting the phenotypes, and that's what Chief
asked. That's why I'm like, man, niggas gonna have to let that shit go, because that's gonna stagnate niggas, man. I'm like, bro, let that shit go, my nigga. Like, we trying to get to Ethereal. Let that always be the view. Once niggas, that's why I stopped getting into the tribal shit. You know what I mean? I don't give a fuck about, the indigenous tribes of such and such. I'm like, you can have that, bro. Cause when you shed this physical body, nigga, that shit don't mean nothing.
Yeah, I was on Chief X's channel. We were talking about that, and they were talking about DNA, and they kept talking about genetics and about the Egyptians being black. There was like a disagreement. Someone was trying to prove that they were. Someone was trying to prove that they're not. And I had to get on there and say, well, what do y'all mean when y'all say black, first and foremost? Because black, I said skin complexion, melanin does not negate race. I was like, y'all getting that shit confused. You know what I mean? We do that here in America because that's like a social construct. But scientifically speaking, if you want to find somebody's race, you're looking at skull structure, you're looking at skull morphology, the shape of their skull and shit. That's how you can tell race. Your genotype, although that is a product of DNA, those are genes that are physically expressed. If you want to tell where somebody's from, like migrations and shit like that, like where you originate from, that's your genotype. That's what's unseen. That'll tell you like where a person descends from or whatever. So if I was going to, like what I was trying to tell them, like shit with the out of Africa or whatever, or just in race in general, you got cats over there in the Far East, like Sunderland, places like that, where you have individuals that are like Aboriginal or indigenous to those areas that look African as shit, sub-Saharan African, Negroidal as fuck. But genetically speaking, they have no genetic relation to Africans at all. They're Asians. They have more genetic affinity with the Asians that are already there. Talking about the white and yellow ones that are already there, with the epicanthic eye fold and all that. But they straight Negroidal. So what does that mean? That means that by racially, they're of Negroid stock, but they're an Asian people.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? That's the difference between
with them what's that? The niggas that's on that island that nobody can go on there because they try to
Sentinel Island.
Yeah. You got them over there too.
Yeah, look at them. They look like they could, you can see them running the savannah and shit like that with some spears and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it looks like
and just imagine if them niggas came from Pan. You feel me? Because they've been there. Don't nobody know how long they've been there.
Oh, with the Sankoi, the Bushmen in South Africa, they've been there since the flooding of Pan. Like, today I just looked up. They've been around for 22,000 years. It says, and I went back and looked at it. That's around when Pan sunk.
You talking about the South African Bushmen?
Yeah, the Sankoi.
Yeah, they got the oldest haplogroup. They shit is
800. Yeah, and I read Susan B. Martinez talk about them. She thinks that they're like an early precursor that were around since the flood.
Yeah,
that's what she thinks, like probably like an earlier precursor of like Aowen, because they're definitely hunter gatherers.
Right.
We're higher civilization than they are. We still have hunter gatherers among us. Right. Now they're not drunks, but they still got that lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? Because the Cro-Magnon were like that. Cro-Magnon was kind of like hunter gatherers, but then they started to learn and shit like that. Exactly. So, that's always going to be there. That's why you have places like Gobekli Tepe, a place that is like aligned with the luminaries and shit, but it's amongst hunter-gatherers
Exactly.
that don't know nothing about that. All they do is forage. You know what I'm saying? They all hunt and stuff like that. They don't know. So that lets you know that it gives credence to the Ihans. You know what I'm saying? They've been around. And
Facts.
that's why I
Facts.
tell people when physical history stops taking you, you have to start having to dive into myth. And now that's when they start calling cats pseudo. No, it's just that what y'all trying to say through archaeology and shit is one thing. But when we go to these indigenous cultures and shit like that, they're saying something completely different. Now, I'm
Exactly.
not saying that everything that they're saying is completely true, but if you understand anything about myth and legends, you understand that every myth and legend starts with an experience. And over time, that experience turns into a belief, and then that a belief evolves into a myth or a legend or folklore. You know what I'm saying? Perhaps, go ahead.
No, exactly. And that's right and exact. And the problem is that the highlight of history is only Egypt. So we talking the 23rd arc cycle. So we talking 6,000 years of known history coming down from 4th millennium BC coming on down to where we at. Known history where we like, we see writings, we see temples, we see monuments. But when you go back past the 23rd arc cycle coming into the 22nd, the 21st, when we get like to 10,000 BC, we don't have nothing. There is nothing these niggas got that could richly give you history from a 12,000 to a 3,000, even a 15,000. While Owaspi is giving you a rich history of what was going on in what we would consider prehistoric times, when man wasn't even writing no literature. When
Exactly.
man, like you say, niggas was hunter-gatherers for the most part. And Owaspi is giving you a rich history of a time period that wasn't documented as we know as documented history.
And detail at that, because it even tells you when the Ihans were building, you know, I think it was when the book of Thor or Apollo, when God was looking for his chosen, and they were showing him the temples with like the bronze and the gold and shit. And he was like, these ain't my chosen. My chosen are those that are small. My chosen are those that live in cities made of wood and mud.
Exactly.
Or brick or what have you. And I looked that up. I'm like, okay, well, how long does wood buildings, structures of wood and brick last for? They all not even 1,000 years. So they're not going to be around. You know what I'm saying? You're not going to find that. So all you're going to have is the myths, the legend. You just got to know how to interpret it, decode it, take it, add it to what you already know in your research of history, archaeology, put into a cohesive argument and present that shit and bring it home. That's all you got to do. It's just cats be scared to do that. So it's not by coincidence that all over the world, ancient cultures talk about a fucking flood, whether it's a worldwide flood or a fucking local flood. They talk about a flood. So what does that tell me? At some point in human history, a cataclysmic event happened with water that all these cultures are talking about. Bang. I don't got to bind myself to any particular story. I just correlate them and I look at the main points. If I tell people, oh, we came from the stars or aliens and shit like that, what's your proof of that? Well, you look at most indigenous cultures, how they talk. A lot of them talk about coming from the stars or in some shape or form, beings coming from the heavens or a high place, and in some way, shape, or form, you know, exchanging DNA and a transfer of knowledge. You know what I'm saying? There's still a transfer of knowledge today. Like I mentioned, we still have hunter-gatherers among us in the Amazon, South Africa, Central Africa. You know what I'm saying? These people are hunter-gatherers. They don't know how to fucking build cities and shit. They don't know how to build a plane unless they're shown that. And who are they going to be shown by? Us, of a higher civilization, a transfer of power. So we see that pattern.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
That's all it is, bro. I'm not gonna hold you up no more, bro. I'm about to get off over here, smoke a little bit. And I appreciate you.
Know what I mean? Yo, man, always, man. You're always welcome, King. And whenever you want to do a presentation, you're welcome, King. I'm about to get off my damn self. Got a couple things to do. This was an excellent build. You know how we do. You know what I mean? Let the people know this is an extended family member, created gang. He part of the family, you know what I mean? No doubt he ain't gone nowhere. Louis Lucifer L in the building.
Now I go by Lushu. But
Lushu, that's all right, because I didn't want to say the shit wrong. So I'm like, all right, let me not say the name. I don't want to.
The Catholic can't say, you can say Lux or Luxu, but it's supposed to be Lushu. Because a lot of people.
So Lushu in the building, man. You know how we do.
Yeah, bro, much appreciate it. Appreciate you, bro. And peace, love, and light, dog. I'm gonna talk to you soon.
All right, till next time, King.
All right, bro.
Salud. Bong. Yes, family. You know how we do. Let's run the rhythm. me a one in the chat if you enjoyed this build today. You know how we do. We touched on the main topic. Can we trust the God of the Bible? And as you see, as we described certain characteristics and contradictions and behavior, as we touched on many more subject matters. You know what I mean? We're gonna go ahead and close it out. We've been on for here 3 hours and some change. Yes, family, I see everybody chimed in, create a gang in the building. You know what I mean? Yes, family, you know how we do. Yes, Dread. Yes, Yarea. Lodge up yourself, yes? You know what I mean? So we're going to go ahead and close it out, family. We're going to go ahead and close it out. See our selectors on the 1 and 2s. You know how we do. It survives. See y'all in the chat. Create a gang. And we out. Peace, love, and light.